Holy cow, that was a quick intro in there. Like usually we have a little bit of delay. We're live now, which is crazy. So welcome everyone. Welcome this evening, episode 39, Pours with Patriots. Joined with my second ever jump master.
Yeah.
First female jump master guest that we've had. So she has a lot of names. So Mary Kate Lawless. We're gonna call her. Are we going MK? What are we doing for that?
What are you going to do? MK, Mary Kate, just Mary. So
Mary, you know, yeah, Mary's kind of old school. You're talking about before some old school names like Mary.
Mary's on the same level as like Helen, Gretchen. No offense to Helen and Gretchen's all, but
yeah, all of them out there can be very upset. Like, sorry, Helen. Yeah, my dad actually had a Helen, and we don't like her very much. So yeah, Helen's an awful name. So if they're listening, I don't give a shit. It's all right. So, but welcome, episode 39. Mary MK. I'm gonna MK. Okay. MK sounds cool. You said you like MK is cool. So MK here, we met at the event that we've talked about here before, a event here locally in Columbus. And as we talk a little bit, if you haven't noticed and you're slow to catching on, she is an Army person. You can see the flags flying up and behind her right shoulder over there. So it's good. Always good to have the Army flag up.
Always.
Always good to have another jump master in the house.
Absolutely.
I mean, we'll talk more about that. We were talking before. We got no 10-minute warrant. We got no jump master commands before this started. You were just.
Well, I thought you were the PJ. You're running the show.
I'm old. I mean, I'm not active. I haven't jumped out of an airplane since 2014. 2003. I'm sorry. What am I talking about? 14.
Could you do it if we got on an airplane?
God, did I? I mean, what is wrong with me? That's old, actually.
Can you remember? If we got on an aircraft right now, could you do it?
Absolutely. I mean, could I jump master? No.
No. That's it.
I mean, I could actually. I'm like, and we'll talk some inside jump master jokes as we come on. So, but could I jump out of an airplane still? Absolutely. Yeah. But I would be. I mean, I'm probably 30-40 pounds heavier than I was when I was in the Army. So I'm going to drop at a crazy rate.
Those harnesses are adjustable.
You got new parachutes though that are a little bit easier. I heard for all the Generation Z, it's a little softer landing.
Yes.
The old T10.
Yeah, they've got they have the T11, which is not steerable, and then they've got the MC6, which is a steerable canopy now. So,
which is what the civil affairs people use. They act all cool. And
hey, if it's easy and we look good doing it, we'll take it. So.
But yeah, can I do it? I absolutely could do it. I mean,
I know you could.
It would hurt like hell. Like,
it hurts like hell no matter what.
Yeah, but I feel like now, like back then I was young. Like I feel like if I hit like a 5 wind landing, a 5 knot landing, and dude, I'd be screaming, medic.
I'll tell you, the softest landing I ever had was Camp Atterbury, Indiana, November. We just had a big snow, so the ground was like all nice and soggy. About a foot or two of snow on the ground, and it was just like laying in a bed. I mean, it was.
She's
nice.
bragging.
It was soggy. It was cold for the rest of the day, but it was good. It was soft.
And it's the steerable, nice chutes. But no, we'll talk more about. We'll get more into the jump master stuff and airborne stuff. But Mary Kate comes to us. She's, like I said, Army, an Army officer, current Army officer right now, captain in the 412th Civil Affairs Battalion
here in Columbus, Ohio.
Here in Columbus, yep. So. Another Ohio girl.
Yeah, go back.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Dover, Ohio. So that's like Amish country up near Sugar Creek. It's about half an hour south of Canton, which is where the Football Hall of Fame is. So claim to fame is Mooney Werther. He was a famous wood carver. So
who was it?
Mooney Werther. Nobody.
Everyone's like, nobody knows.
Yeah, if you're not from Dover, you don't know. But he's famous, right? So.
If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
No.
But it was a good place to grow up. Small town. Big enough, where you gotta drive to the other side of town, but small enough where you could ride your bike in the summertime. So,
and a Catholic school girl?
Yeah. So I went to a small Catholic school. I started out at Sacred Heart Elementary and then went into Tuscarora Central Catholic High School. And I graduated with 17 kids in my senior class. So very small school. But we ran around with the Dover and Philly kids. I mean, those were the public school kids in the area, and they were all right. They weren't too bad,
You didn't pick on them too much?
No.
I find that
they accepted us into the normal life. So.
Yeah, because so you had major school districts, and then you guys were like the Catholic kids. That's small. Mm-hmm. That's small. 17 is. You still talk to them? Any of them?
No, I don't. No, I wouldn't. Not that I wouldn't talk to them if I ran into them, But I don't know. I don't know if any of them still are friends. Really, there's got to be a couple of them. I don't keep up with them, but I should.
Well, I think it's interesting with the small classes. We have people on, like always talk about that. You think that like 17 people, you were so close to them that you would say connected, and that's not the case. So like everybody moves on.
I think, because it was the same kids, preschool to 12th grade, senior year of high school, 17 kids. So I think I was just like, that was good times with you guys. I'm moving on to the next thing. So.
What you don't know is they have a reunion every year that Mary Kate's not invited to. But yeah. So if you're at Tuscarawas,
Tuscarawas, it is, I'm going to say this wrong. It's a native derived word, but I don't know what like tribe or what specific origin. But I do know, it's some kind of native word. But yeah.
Hopefully you get invited to the reunion next year that you've missed since 2009.
Should I go?
You gotta be invited.
We have drill or something that weekend already now, so.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So you left there. You talk about growing up a little bit. So any sports?
Oh gosh, yeah. So my dad, he played football for Ohio University. Okay. And so he came from a big athletic family. A couple of his brothers played college ball. So it was kind of like coming out of the womb, we were either doing batting practice or lifting weights or something. And I remember like my friends growing up, they would come over in the summertime and we had an in-ground swimming pool. So my mom and dad would always like bait the neighborhood kids to come over and do yard work. And they'd be like, well, you guys can swim afterwards, if you lay mulch for a couple hours. So, but, where is it? Oh yeah. But we'd lay mulch, do yard work. And then we'd always have to do like some kind of batting practice or something with my dad. And all my best friends growing up, they'd always make fun of it and say, oh, going over to Camp Lawless, So, and then we'd be swimming, but yeah, it was good growing up. I had a good family, mom and dad, 2 brothers, so good neighborhood friends.
So where do you fall in line with the?
I'm the oldest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. My brother Joseph, he's right behind me, and then my brother Michael, he's 3-4 years younger than me. So, but they're both doing really good. Michael's a first-year resident for ear, nose, and throat doctor up in Michigan, and then Joseph's a civil engineer, and he's got a whole family. So.
Oh, nice.
But I'll tell you what, Michael, I don't know, are you a football fan?
I am. Okay. Don't say Ohio State, though. I'm not.
No.
Yes, I love football, but my middle son plays football, so okay. I'm a Giants fan.
Okay.
And I don't, like what we've talked about before, there's another Giants fan in the house, which is awesome, but not a big college football fan. I get a lot of shit on that, but.
Yeah, that's odd to hear. Why?
Well, not really, because college football, my thing about college football is it's like you have all these great programs, right? Kids are going there, you're supposed to learn, but it's become like a profit thing. And then you lose one game and the whole season's gone. I just don't understand that. There's some new playoff stuff that's coming. Hopefully it'll be different, but I am a football fan, so
okay.
Didn't mean to
go on a that's okay, because now I got other questions. How'd you end up a Giants fan?
I grew up in New York.
Okay.
I'm getting interviewed now. I love this. This is great.
Sorry.
So I grew up in upstate New York. So like I'm a Yankees, Giants, Knicks, Rangers fan.
Okay.
So that's like a New York thing. So if you're like say for example, you're a Jets fan, typically you're a Mets fan.
Okay.
Then you're a Nets fan and an Islander fan. That's kind of how it's different now. Like so, yeah. If you met somebody that like told me they were New York Giants and New York Mets fan, I'd be like,
it doesn't make sense.
But it's 2023, so a lot of things that are different. So now I gotta accept it and just be like, that's cool. I'm just glad you're a New York fan. But that's great. But that's how it started. Like you grow.
No, so my little brother Michael, he has put us on an emotional journey with emotional roller coaster with like what team we're allowed to like. Because so we grew up Michigan fans. Okay. Oh. I don't know where that came from, but my dad was like, you will like the Wolverines. I'm getting some head shakes over here.
Your dad's a good guy. I hear that.
My little brother ended up, I believe he was a preferred walk-on at OSU. So then we're like, okay, all these years of like, Wolverine gear, we got to toss that and get some of the Buckeye stuff. So we're like, okay, we'll do it for him. So we switched to the Buckeyes for a couple of years, and now he's back up in Michigan doing his residency. So it's just kind of like, what is it now? What are we going with, Michigan or Ohio State? So
who is it now?
I mean, go Bobcats. That's what to the core of it, really. So I'd have to go with Ohio State at this point, I think. Yeah.
So you did jump ahead. She went to OU. She's a Bobcat. So that's a good answer. Good answer. Get out of it.
Loved OU. I'm such a small town girl. Mom and dad both went to OU. So I remember I did not want to go there because mom and dad went there. I was like, I'm not, doing this small town, going to the same college as them. But my mom took me to the campus on a tour and I just fell in love. I mean, it's beautiful. It's in the hills, Appalachia. It's got all kinds of people. Everyone's so welcoming and it's a good school. So I'm glad
I mean,
I
it
went
does
there.
always for the people. I mean, that's a good answer to that. But it is like usually in the top 10 of party schools and
Absolutely.
in the country too. So
We
I'm sure that's what
follow.
she told her parents. Oh, it's so beautiful, but she's like, oh, this is a party school. So,
My mom was a big supporter of that. My dad was like, yeah. I mean, have you been? Do you know about it? So, but no, they fell in rank like the year before I went. Are you hearing me bump this?
yeah, that's twice.
Okay.
So we're keeping. I think the
I'm
record's
sitting
11.
I'm
I think
sitting
the
on my
record's
right
11,
hand.
but we're all right.
Sorry, everybody. Okay. They were number 1 party school the year before I went. They dropped to number 3. I did my best, and I don't even think they're in the rankings anymore. So
I don't know if that's good for a college to be the top party school, though. I mean,
you know,
as a parent, you don't want to send your kid to the top party school in the nation, right?
it shows work ethic, in my opinion. And I know you've heard this before. If you can maintain your head above water, still do good in school, still be a professional when you're going to whatever college job, side job you're doing, go to your interviews, internships, and still have a social life, I think that's good.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, I agree, but I think it comes down to it's funny you're already talking about the difference in generation. So like the school to me is like I love hearing parents talk about like the time for college is for them to go and learn all this stuff and partying and kind of stuff, but they're going to college to learn a skill, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To start a career. Like, I mean, yeah, it could be the next step. So it's just funny to me. I have a different view of it. Like you see parents that like take their kids to school and they put them in an apartment, like this really nice apartment. And then they like let them join fraternities or sororities their first year, or like they cry when they like my kid can't stay in a dorm with no air conditioning. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? That's how you build character. If that little fucker can survive a summer in that, you know he's gonna make it. You gotta only move up. You can't give him everything up front. And then but so the partying is a different. I think I look at it as more of yes, everybody gets distractions, right? So you're maybe a little differently when you get a little older and have kids yourself, but you want to limit the distraction, especially in the world now where it's even more distracting. But don't.
Well, and I think the more expensive it gets too, the more I'm not a parent, but I can imagine from a parent's perspective, you'd be like, yo, get this done, like get in and get out, So
we're not going to have no 7-year. No, it's crazy.
I will say looking back now, I mean, I do wish I had spent more time focusing on academics. I think I limited myself at the time. I ended up with a good career. I love what I do right now. But I think I limited myself because I was like, I don't want to work hard at physics. I don't want to work hard at chemistry, So I kind of picked something that I was like, oh, this all comes naturally to me. I can do this without putting in maximum effort. And, I just think about all the things I could have done, but that's okay. Yeah, but I'm happy. So it's good. It's good. Yeah.
So we did jump ahead. So the one question I always ask is she has an interesting getting into the military, right? It wasn't right away, right? You didn't join the military right away.
No.
So you graduated, got your undergraduate first, right?
Yes.
And then.
So can I?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm just trying to. I mean, I'm just here to facilitate. Remember I told you. And you can ask me any questions you want. You already asked me MK has asked the most questions before any guest we've ever had before, so she's ready to rock and roll.
Okay, well, side story. I'm a speech therapist, and so I think that's what we do is we just we like to control conversations. We like to talk. We like to get to know people. And this weekend, I ran into another speech therapist out in the wild, which is kind of a rare, encounter. And I didn't know she was a speech therapist when I first, I was at a baby shower. My aunt introduced us because we're sitting at the same table. And I didn't know she was a speech therapist. So she's just drilling me. Like, where are you from? What do you do? This and that and the other. What do you, and I'm like, when is it going to be my turn to start asking questions? And then we found out we were both speech therapists. And that was a good moment of reflection on me because I was like, that's how I am in conversation. And I need to not be like that. I need to let other people talk too. So it was good.
I never have that problem, just so you know. And I'm not a speech pathologist or a speech therapist.
That's true. Well, but we got to talk in the Army. We got to make friends quick when we go places.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, went to undergrad. So with speech therapy, you go to undergrad for, you do your 4-year degree. You can get it done in 3, but most people take 4. And then you go to a 2-year graduate program. And so I had graduated, and you can do, the undergrad is in communication sciences and disorders. And then from that, you can choose to go into speech language pathology or a doctorate of audiology. And so I had graduated from undergrad, and I had put in my application to a bunch of schools for audiology. And I had actually got into Gallaudet University. It's the National School for the Deaf in Washington, D.C. And I was so excited about it. And then I got to sitting and thinking about, I'm going to have to live in the city. It's going to be expensive. And, being a small town girl, I just got really intimidated by that and decided not to go that route. So that summer, I took a job in the city tax office. It was miserable. I mean, those ladies were so nice, but I'm not an office girl. And I remember sitting there and just hating my life. And I see the fire truck pull out. The fire department was right next door in the same building. And I see the fire truck pull out, and I was like, I'm going to go be a firefighter. So that summer, that fall, I went to Hawking College, I don't know what they're calling it right now, and did firefighting and EMT for that next year. So graduated in 2015, went to firefighting and EMT the next year. And then during that time, I had decided, like, okay, I'm going to go for speech therapy. I'm going to put in my application. I ended up getting into Ohio University, which that was a big feat because I was told by one of the advisors not to even bother applying. But I had a wonderful professor who took me under his wing, brought me into his lab, let me do some of his, lab work, and just really like get myself up to the challenge, and a good resume and all that. So ended up getting into Ohio University for speech therapy grad school. But in the meantime, I was like, how am I going to pay for this? And that's when I was like, well, I guess I'll do the Army. So here we go. So that's how I decided on that.
So how old were you then?
Oh, gosh. Well, I joined in 2014. I signed in May of 2014. So how old does that make me? I'm 32 now.
She's good at speech, but not math, obviously.
I was older. Okay. I remember, so what are you, 21 when you graduate from college?
Normally 21. I mean, the new COVID days, it depends, yeah.
It had to been 23 because I went to grad school when I was 24, because I remember feeling like, oh, I'm so much older than these girls fresh out of college,
But the reason I bring that up is it is a little bit late not late, but it's for military people, generally people have made decisions. So the one question I had is like, so up until, you're trying to figure out how to pay for graduate school, no thoughts of going to the military before that?
No. Okay. So we didn't really have a military family. Like my pappy was drafted, did 2 years, got out. My cousin, he went in during the surge. But we weren't like a military family, very patriotic, but and my younger brother, he had done ROTC to pay for his undergrad, which was awesome. And I had never thought about it just because I was more like Peace Corps kind of girl, like, I don't know. And then it's funny when money comes into it, you're like, yep, sign me up.
Yeah, I want to help people, but I can kill people too, as long as you pay for my
which is cool. Why civil affairs is cool, right? Because that's our job, is to like go out and help people. But anyway,
win their hearts and minds.
Yeah. But I had made the decision. I didn't tell anybody because I knew I need this to be my decision and no outside influences on it. So I made the decision, went to the recruiter's office. I was going to join the Navy. Like, I don't know why. I just thought the Navy was cool. Probably all the movies or something. I don't know. But the Navy sounded good. Went in. Navy door was closed. There was nobody in the office. So
I love hearing these stories. This is you're probably literally the 12th or 13th, maybe 15th guest that says they're going to do something, and some recruiter, either the Army guy wasn't, the Navy person wasn't there, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, fuck it, I'm going to join the Army.
Literally walked down the hall, and there was one other door open, and I was like, hey, and they're like, well, come on in. So, and I remember them being like, because I wanted to enlist. Like, I knew I wanted to enlist. I wanted to be a medic. I wasn't going to do it if I couldn't be a medic. And I remember them being like, okay, wait, you already have a bachelor's degree. You already got accepted to a master's degree. Like, you have a job. are you like somebody from the higher recruiting command, like coming to like check on us? Like, are you for real? You want to enlist?
You got me. I'm here.
Yeah. So, I mean, they took me and that was it. So
It's funny bring that because I went to a funeral in San Diego for a paratrooper that passed away. So a bunch of officers went out there, and we were looking. One of the guys forgot, I think, a flash or something uniform. So we went to the Army recruiter in San Diego. So before we went in there, we decided to all pretend like we were just, we were just like there to ask questions.
Yeah.
So we went in and just started like bombarding these 3 recruiters with questions. Like there was like you remember, you're probably young, but there was the Golden Knights, the guy in the black jumpsuit and all that kind of stuff. And we're just asking questions, and we're like, hey, this guy has airborne, everyone's why don't you? And we were just like 15 minutes just being the most awful. And there was like 5, we're 5 captains in the 82nd at the time doing this. And none of us feel bad at all.
No,
I probably think we had been drinking before probably, but so finally some E7 walks up and it's like, are you guys, what the fuck is going on? Because like you guys are, and we're like, actually we're captains, and they're like, seriously, gentlemen, like you're in here giving everybody a hard time. We're like, we're just having fun. We're looking for something. They're like, we don't like, good luck getting that. You're not getting that in San Diego. You know what I mean?
Did they think it was funny?
I don't think they did, but I get it. Yeah, we thought it was hysterical, but I don't think they did.
West Coast boys have no sense of humor, though. That's what it is.
I mean, recruiting would be a hard job.
It would.
I never got into that. I mean, I feel like that's a tough thing to do. I mean, you hear those stories, like you brought up an interesting story that many people have before. Like how many people are like, I'm going to go do this, and then they walk in and there's not a recruiter there, and then some of the recruiter like steps in and and changes people's course of their life. But and it's a tough thing. I mean, especially now. In today's, 2023 recruiting, it's got to be,
I can imagine,
crazy tough, you know what I mean?
Well, and those guys have to make their numbers, right? So, like, I mean, it's hard enough getting evals in on time, getting people to make medical appointments, let alone getting people to join the military. I can't imagine. And then you always hear about those kids, I know, like in college, you're always getting these text messages that are like, oh, this is recruiter so-and-so. Have you thought about joining the Army? And kids are assholes. Like they'll text back stupid stuff, inappropriate pictures. And I was never like that. So I feel bad for those guys. They have a tough job.
Except for you. You just walk in, you're like, hey, I want to be a medic. Why did you want to be a medic? What was the...
I don't know. I had like a crazy phobia of blood. And I say phobia, not fear, because like it was a legit phobia growing up. I would like pass out, get nauseous, just absolutely lose it anytime I saw blood. And I don't know. I think one time I was just like, I need to grow up. I got to get over this. And so I was like, let's do the medic thing. And I remember them asking, do you want to be a paratrooper? And I was like, what's that? And they were like, oh, never mind. You don't want to do it, which just meant he didn't want to have to do the extra paperwork, And then here I am a couple years later,
You should have been like, hell yeah, I want to be a paratrooper. You didn't tell them that you were afraid of blood and all that kind of stuff. They're like, sure, you can become a medic. This sounds like a perfect job. Yeah.
No, but they found out at AIT whenever we had to learn how to give each other IVs. So absolutely embarrassed myself, just crying and stuff.
But see, that was one of the great. If you've never been in the military and you've never done combat, you've never been a medic or combat lifesaver. Yeah. So when I was getting out, I don't know what they do now, but when you have to do that and give each other IVs, that is one of the greatest human experiences I've ever seen. Like I'm not into that, but like it's like a task. You just do it. But it is funny to watch people that are like they just can't do it. Like it's and then what they do is, if you don't know that, is you have a partner. So MK and I would be partners, and we would take turns trying to give each other an IV. And if she was not good at it, they just
keep
it's fishing. The military. They don't care. Just keep poking until you can figure it out. And it's the most awful.
Yeah.
And then you always like, I never want to be around that person if anything ever happens, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, and it's wild because I did the firefighting and the EMT before that. So I kind of had a little bit of experience, but EMT school is very like basic. You're not doing, I mean, what they do is wonderful. They have a great skill set. And the more experience you have, the more you're trusted with higher level emergency care tasks. But going to AIT in the Army, it's a different type of medicine. Right. You're learning, I don't want to say combat medicine because I've never, deployed.
So Fort Sam is where you went?
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went to Fort Sam. It's hot. It's sticky. Went to Fort Sill for basic, and then.
So Fort Sam is in San Antonio for people that know. So it's fucking hot all the time in San Antonio. And
so it And when you're an AIT, like, it's so dumb. You got to walk around with a helmet and the eye pro and like the whole kit. Just walk into the dining hall, they're just making it suck for you just to get used to it. And you're just drenched. Like, I remember my one friend, Amanda Haskins, we're still good friends to this day, but she, her and I would always volunteer to take the MRE boxes in the morning because we could like walk at our own pace. We didn't have to walk in formation up this hill, getting sweaty at 6 o'clock in the morning for chow before the day even started. So
to be sweaty until 8 o'clock at night. I thought you were going to tell a different story why you took the MREs, because this is a good story for most people. Is it's a term that if you're in the military, like rat fucking MREs. So like you'd volunteer to take the MREs. She's talking about walking at her own pace. It's because also that they get first dibs on the MREs. That's you had.
No, I never did that. I never did that. No,
my Lord.
No. Okay, I will say so. My strategy was wait till the end, because like they would bring in. It would be all the discarded stuff that people didn't want. And we did get hot chow. Like for breakfast, I remember. And I don't know why, but they would bring like the mini donuts, like how you get in the bags at the gas station. It's like you got your glazed and your powdered donuts. You know what I'm talking about? They bring those.
I mean, never like in.
But all
it's gotten soft. Look at that. I mean, what year is this? Like
2014.
Give you donuts.
I know. But all the powder would have been taken. All the chocolate covered would have been taken. And so all you had was the plain ones left. And so I'd just wait till the back of the line and then, eat like 7 plain donuts every morning before training. So it was good. It was a strategy.
Sounds like a female.
It's an interesting strategy. You got it. If you ever have a chance, everybody's listening, like we talked about the rat fucking MREs, like we're talking about it. So the MREs, if you don't know, everybody that doesn't know, they come in a case and they're assorted things. And generally the first person that opens it will generally take what they want. And if you're late, you do get the scraps of things that you like.
You're going hungry that day.
The animals don't even want to eat.
It's like, what is it? There's sausage gravy or something like that. And then pork sausage gravy is nasty. I can't do that one. And then there's like what's a McRib or something? It's like a pork patty or sausage patty.
Like the McRib, yeah. I've heard about it. I didn't have that one. I had mine was like the egg omelet, like the omelet.
We didn't even
omelet
have it
with ham. It was like, oh god.
Was it like soupy eggs, like watery eggs?
No, it was like a brick. Like it was like cooked. It was like an omelet, right? But this is a true story about the egg. I don't know if I've told before, but when we're talking about MREs, it's just what I love about these conversations where they go. But I was at Fort Irwin and my driver left a case of MREs in our Humvee, and I said, don't leave it out there. They said, don't do it because they have these coyotes that'll come through and get the food. Yeah. So I show up and a coyote got in and just fucking destroyed this case of MREs. I mean, it was all over our vehicle. So my thing is like, Volk, you're going to be cleaning this shit up. Yeah. And then I look over, I still have to pick it up, and literally all of these MREs are devoured. And I look over, there's one MRE, there's the omelet with ham, and there's like one bite of it. And the funny thing is I'm all angry. Like you're angry, like you got to understand the military. Like everyone just wants, it's like you just want to yell, you're mad about it. You're mad. You gotta be mad, right? You gotta pretend like you're like, it's like scolding it like a kid in some ways, but like, and I start even, I can't even like be mad anymore because I look over and he's like, what's so funny? I'm like, see, I fucking told you, even a fucking animal will not eat omelet with ham. It's so bad. And it was like, he could have got scared away or whatever. She got scared away. But I definitely don't think they wanted it. But somebody said they can't be that bad, can they? MREs, dude. They are bad. When you're hungry, they're not that bad.
I was just about to say
So when you're hungry, you will eat anything. So are they that bad? Yes.
They're pretty good. It's like stale canned food. Like, how do you get canned food stale? The Army has figured it out. Yeah. And that's what an MRE is.
And it's perfect for like, if you're talking about the real world, like what it's meant for is to get a bunch of calories into someone the shelf life is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't even pretend about what it is, but you can eat it but it does work. I mean, like it meets its purpose, but it's not something that
it is a survival. It's a survival asset is what it is. Yeah. And then they have us out there. They're supposed to sustain you one MRE for 24-hour period, right? That's got enough calories in it. Yeah, and they're like, oh, here's 3. Like, just eat all 3 of them in one day.
And if you eat 3 MREs one day, you're going to have a bathroom problem that I don't think we need to talk about. On here. All the Joe's over there is like shaking his head like, oh God. Like, oh gosh. So we're back to we digress into MREs. But we're going to get back on track here, I promise. Okay. we're going to talk about you walk into the recruiter, you
Okay.
decide to become
6-8 whiskey.
you become a medic.
Okay.
You graduate obviously from
I did
basic and
graduate.
AIT.
Yeah.
You head back to the 256 Combat.
Yeah.
Hospital.
Support hospital. Yeah.
Okay.
Up in Twinsburg. Yeah.
And you're a student that time then or no? Are you?
I was, yeah. So the next year I started grad school.
Okay.
So for that first year, I just did the drill thing. It just was drilling reservist, and then I do believe the next year I started ROTC. So it was I was double dipping because I was on a ROTC scholarship that covered the whole 2 years of grad school. Plus, I was getting my drill pay. So I actually came out of grad school making money, which I was very fortunate. I was in a good position for that. So ROTC was fun. How did you commission?
ROTC, but I
I
didn't do it in grad school. I did it straight
Oh, that's another
from
thing.
undergraduate.
Everybody said you can't do ROTC and grad school at the same time because both are very full time, air quote, challenging positions. They're taking a lot of time. But you can do anything, if you put your mind to it, make time for it. But I want to talk about the lie that ROTC is. Did you? Yes.
Holy cow! This is getting deeper.
No.
Before we get into the lies,
Okay.
I think let's go over the first featured
Okay.
whiskey before we get. I like this. This is like the
It's good.
lies are
It's
coming.
good. I
The
love
lies
it.
of ROTC. I can't
love
wait
it.
to. I can't wait to hear this. So, we have a new whiskey that you brought, a new
Yes.
bourbon. You brought us Four Roses.
4 Roses, yeah,
Right.
single barrel.
A recommendation. You were worried that you brought one, so we haven't featured Four Roses yet on the podcast. So all the guys down here in the basement know Four Roses. You were talking about how you thought you brought about, something wasn't cool, but it's a very popular brand, a lot of history. So, Four Roses is located in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. It's actually built in 1910 in an old Spanish mission architecture, which is actually now like one of the National Register historic areas down in Kentucky. It was originally called the Old Prentice Distillery and was owned by J.T.S. Brown. Like many bourbon companies, it didn't go well for a certain amount of time, and they kind of changed focus because of the market was. But in 1943, it was bought by Seagram's, and then towards the late 50s, Seagram's discontinued the sale of Four Roses straight Kentucky whiskey in the United States, and they decided to focus on blended whiskey. And they started sending all the straight Kentucky whiskey, which we're going to have today, over to Europe and Asia because that was the booming market. During that whole time frame, like late 50s to almost like the late 90s, you had blended whiskey, which is mainly neutral grain. You're going to try it later on tonight as one of our traditions when we're off camera. We'll know what we're talking about a little bit more, but it didn't have a really good name for a long time. So what happened is in 1999, Four Roses was again sold from Seagram's to Benetti and Universal, then to Pernod Ricard and Diageo in 2001, and then finally found its home, which we know about today, from the Kirin Brewery in 2002. What Kirin did is they decided, hey, we're not going to sell blended whiskey anymore in the United States. We're going to bring Kentucky straight bourbon back to the United States, and share with like where it was going for like 40 years for the rest of the world. So Four Roses is one of those unique distilleries, and we won't get into it. It's kind of crazy, but you did bring a really complex bourbon because it actually, what Four Roses, how they distill, they use 2 different mash bills, and they have 5 different yeast strains to create 10 different unique recipes they call. So I have one of these down here to show that. So this is these are all their recipes. We're not going to open all these things, but that's what the yeast strains and the 2 mash bills create. The one you brought us the 100 proof, which is what in the bourbon world they call the OBSV. So this is 100 proof. It uses the V strain yeast, which they say is the delicate fruit, spicy and creamy version of the yeast. There's some really what you did is you brought one of like the biggest nerd bourbons that are out there because it just goes deep and deep about the yeast strain, the mash bill, where it's aged, the runs, all that kind of stuff. But you did bring us 100 proof. We have a barrel proof up here as well. But what's unique about this is just they do offer the 100 proof, which is the shelfer one that you see every day. But they do offer their private barrels of all those different selections and private barrel selections or distiller releases. So the one we're having right now is 100 proof. It's not age stated, and the mash bill is 60% corn, 35% rye, and 5% malted barley. So
it's a good one.
Great. Yeah, great product. First time we've got the feature. All the guys were excited about it, but we'll. Are you ready to try some? Or are you still?
I'm still sipping this one. I'm
accumulating. You got to try the one you featured. You got to put that one aside.
Well,
just give it to Joe. He'll drink it on the side. One of the guys.
Well, he's a Marine Hall of anything.
He was.
She's not wrong. Is that red or green flavored?
That is shit. So.
No,
But I'm glad you brought this. I haven't had the 100 proof in like forever. So it's a single barrel 100 proof.
Okay.
Generally, like the really bourbon nerd people like the barrel proof stuff. So I hope you can try that.
I have to say, my first sergeant, Ruben Verde, he recommended this. So he's a big bourbon fan. He corrects me every time I say whiskey. He's like, it's bourbon. You know,
all bourbon is whiskey.
About. Yes, my brother and I went through this several times last night, so I could understand it. So. Oh, yes. Good suggestion.
It is nice to have 100 proof. I haven't had it in a long time, so it's a little bit,
It doesn't have that super hot whiskey. Like I just drank a shot of whiskey, my chest is burning. It's kind of hot up front, but then it's softer.
Are you judging that? That's the best part of whiskey, when you feel like you start sweating.
Oh, no, I'm not. I wore shorts today specifically because I figured I would start sweating drinking whiskey. So, but
that doesn't know to happen. That's not to happen.
Yeah, and it's all right.
Well, thanks for bringing that. That's a great choice to bring. So now you start. I mean, that's the pause for whiskey. Now we're back into MK's story. We're talking about, if you haven't heard before, you're talking about the lie of ROTC.
Is, yes.
What do you mean by the lie of ROTC? I haven't heard that.
Okay, I gotta say, I absolutely loved ROTC, and that's the lie. Is they make it so much stinking fun. That you're getting money, like, well, you're a poor college kid, so any kind of money you're getting, you're happy about it. Right. But you've got a great friend group, camaraderie. You're doing teams like I'd always did, like the Best Ranger, Bold Warrior challenges. You're getting like leadership positions, and you're just walking around like, with your little ROTC dot, like I'm a first sergeant, I'm a big deal out here. And we did all these trips, and we did field problems weekly. We went out to the ridges in Athens, and we do land nav, and we did ranges, and they just made it so much fun, and there's really no, nothing bad can happen in ROTC, right? I mean, unless if you mess up and like you're getting kicked out for whatever crazy reason, most of the time they want to make it a positive experience for you. And they have all these fun things. And then you get to the Army and you're like, that kind of sucks in the sense that like,
we had Mike Kellington on.
Okay.
He's coming on again here for second part. So he's actually the professor of military science at the Ohio State University. I hope he's listening to that, the lie of ROTC. So I'm different. So I went to military school.
Okay.
Right. So you had to do ROTC up until a certain point.
Okay.
So I don't remember it being
fun. It wasn't fun.
Well, it's different. It's a military school. You're doing. I can understand. Like I've talked to Mike about this before. Like it is a different thing. Like you're a college kid. You're also doing all these things that you want to do in the Army. So it is a different. There's more. Like we talked to Mike, but there's a distraction about it. So they have. I feel like maybe at the schools like OU or other places like that, they have. You have to keep people interested in, right? That's not. That's not a lie. If you make it suck too much,
kids aren't going to want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
I feel like
how many college kids want to get up at 5:45?
Zero
to go PT. Right?
Yeah, nobody.
Right. So you
Except
have
for
to.
the good ones. Yeah.
But you have to incentivize, right?
Yes.
So I mean, there's different things like you go on a ruck march, you run. I mean, but I wouldn't call it the lie. I mean, I guess anytime the military is a lie. I mean, it's all out there. It's a lie.
I love being in the military. I loved ROTC. Like I would recommend it to anybody. So I'm making a joke here, but like it's a lie.
But there are a lot of things like interesting about your story is to share is. I want to go back. So when you went to AIT, what rank were you? E4 then? Okay. So that's one of the things I just want to make sure. So there's one of the benefits. Like if you decide to go to college and hey, you really don't like what you're doing and maybe you want to change something, the military is a great option.
Yes.
You can go in there. You start off as an E4. It's a big jump to a lot of people that are going in there, and it can jumpstart your career in a different way to that. So you are rewarded in the military for your college. Which is kind of funny because on the other side, the straight enlisted people, they kind of like, there's a fucking college kid. You're kind of, you have a target on your back.
Absolutely. So. There is something about having been prior enlisted, but there's a big difference also too. Okay. Sorry, I jumped ahead. There's something about being prior enlisted and then going officer. But there's also a big gap in that community of people who were actually NCOs, E5s, versus like your lower enlisted, your E1s to E4s, so I feel like there's a lot more respect when you have an officer who has that background of like, I've led troops at the NCO
Right,
level. So yeah.
I mean, you get
Good for
that. I
those
mean,
guys.
but I think it's the one interesting thing about an officer that doesn't change is no matter what you do, the enlisted people still will give you shit because you're
Oh,
an officer. That's one of the things that
absolutely.
it never changes over time. It's like,
Yeah.
I remember my dad, when he was in, didn't really like officers, and that's why I think I became an officer, because to piss my dad off. But no, but it's always the same thing. I think there's a respect that they won't ever. If you're good at it, there's a huge respect. They won't always tell you that, but there is
Yes.
always that animosity, or that, like, I don't know, animosity, but just like a little bit of a ribbing that you get.
Oh yeah.
From it, so.
Oh, absolutely. My pappy won't let it die. Every day I go see him, he's like calling me a candy ass because I'm an officer.
So what branch was he then? He got drafted in
Army.
Vietnam then?
Yeah. No,
Right.
he was the Berlin crisis. I think that's what he did. He never deployed,
Okay.
but he got drafted, and he was over at Fort Meade for 2 years. So he's a truck driver. Yeah. My uncle, he was in Vietnam. He got a Purple Heart. Yeah, he's got some good stories when you can get him to talk about it. So
does he talk about it now that you're in the military with you now, or does it?
Yeah, actually, like, I remember being a kid, and like my grandma would be like, don't ask Uncle Bill about this stuff. But the older he gets, I don't know,
Ask
but
Crazy Bill about those
yeah.
stories.
But here recently in the last year, he shared a couple of stories with me, so they're crazy. It was a different time. I can't speak on Vietnam, but I would not have wanted to ever be there.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it before. Even when my dad was on, it's like once you become a brother and sisters in arms, you tend to feel a bit more relaxed and can talk about the stories. But one of the things we talked about is you should share these stories. Like, a lot of the stories that we think are there are a lot of stories that are really fucked up that we experience in the military, but you should share them. You don't have to share them with military people. And I think that's one of the things that hurts us as a community, and what we're dealing with the veteran suicide thing, is you can share it with people. I am limited to what I like. I don't share a lot with my family, right? But I do tell other people that aren't in the military of my family, because I don't want to be judged by my family, or the weird things about that. There's just like those, different things. Like, it's just, I don't know. That's my thing. Whatever. But I just, you shouldn't. You don't need to be a veteran to talk about it. But it is easier when you know that person is like experienced the same thing you've experienced, and they're not going to judge you. That's the whole thing. Like, if you tell some stories about some things that we've done or been exposed to, people are like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I need another drink. I'll be right back. And you don't see him for the rest of the party.
They never come back.
And then you're not invited to the next block party. You're like, what did I say? I just talked about no.
I think it's hard because you have to kind of shop around for that go-to buddy, a little bit, because not everybody understands what you're explaining. Like the MREs, right? And we got that comment, oh, it can't be that bad. But it's like, if you experience it, you understand it. You don't have to. And you're talking to somebody about something you're feeling, you don't have to give, why you're feeling that way, or all the background and details on it. They can just kind of sit there and understand where you're coming from. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, the shop around is a good point. It's not just in like when you're doing well, it's when you're not doing well. That's another thing too, is you need to reach out, like we've always talked about before. There's somebody you can talk to. It doesn't have to be a military person. It doesn't have to be a medical professional. It could be anybody that you feel comfortable to get themselves off your chest. That's not going to judge you. That's the main concern. And the people on the other end of it is like we always say to be there is, you kind of got to listen to some of the things we say and take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Not get too nervous about it,
Yeah.
Or maybe you should about some of the things, but no.
Yeah, I think that the not judging is big, because sometimes, like in the military, it's like you have to do things that are gross and not really. I don't want to say you don't want to share the story, because you're like, that's just, I was at a nasty level in my life, like. Okay, my low was basic training. I had stolen a peanut butter packet from the dining hall.
You stole?
I stole 2. And I ended up eating them when I was sitting in the porta-john, because I was like, did not want to get caught. So that, it's like.
So if you ever find in the middle of the night, she's in the bathroom
right
now
eating
peanut butter, like eating peanut butter off the spoon.
Yeah. But
I mean, my porta-john story was at. I used to get.
We're going there now.
No.
We're going the porta-john route.
These are fun stories. So, like, you think about like the crazy things. Like, I was at Bragg for my ROTC. Now they go to Knox.
Yep.
Used to go to Fort Lewis and Bragg for advanced camp, and it was my battle buddy was a prior enlisted E6, and it was fucking pouring rain. I mean, we dug these hasty fighting positions, and it was just like a little mini battle. And we're laying in this, and he's like, dude, there's a porta-john like 25 feet from here. He's like, here's what we're gonna do. We're grabbing our shit. We're gonna go in that porta-johns.
No.
We're gonna hang out in the porta-johns. And, you know, one of us will, you know, we'll just stay dry. And I'm like, it's a porta-john. He's like, it doesn't care. So we go into the porta-john together, both of us. We leave all of our stuff out there. And he proceeds to take the, you know, the vent or something off so we could see out. And he's just watching. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, dude, we got to watch if somebody comes by. Like, we got to, like, one of us has got to, we have 50% security. One of us got to run out there. So we stayed in there for like 5 hours, pouring rain. It was like, we did not. I mean, you're sitting there. And if you've ever been to porta-john, it's small for one person, but two people, you're sitting there. It was like you were out of the rain. It was like it was like the greatest thing. And then like as soon as it stopped raining, we booked back out there, you know, and you know everyone's all miserable. Like, oh, it was the worst night. Like, I don't know how you guys made it. We're like, get in the porta-john next time. But
I mean, were you standing? I just feel like
we took
like
turns. Like somebody was sitting on the
situation.
Yeah, somebody was. Yeah. Well, we honestly we were doing what we were supposed to do. We were still doing 50%.
Yeah, right.
Because somebody was looking at the vent, but one of us was sitting. Work
smarter, not harder. Yeah.
It was crazy. I mean. That was the best experience because he knew all the ways to cheat the system. He was an E6 before. He's like screw this stuff. Yeah. Like no, we're not gonna get caught. We got to be. But that is an important thing. Like if it's there, like I don't hate somebody for doing that, right? I mean,
no.
We've all like stole chow before. I went to military school. Like you tried to sneak chow. You're hungry. Like people, when you're hungry, everybody's done that. You can't. But the porta-john, I feel like come on.
Nasty. You get that. I mean, you hit some low points. That's looking pretty good, though. You know, I mean, what is it? Porta-johns provide shelter, warmth, like you know, security. Private, yeah.
It had all going on in there. And food. Squeezing that brown peanut butter packet.
I'll tell you what, that's the trick to making it through basic training and AIT and cadet camps and all that stuff is finding a buddy who'd been prior enlisted because they will lead the way.
Yeah, it is different when you can.
Yeah.
When you could do it, it got us in a lot of trouble too, but it was a fun. Scott was fun. It was a fun few weeks. We got in a lot of trouble, but
do you guys stay in touch?
What was that?
You and Scott, do you stay in touch?
He went. So it was funny about him is he actually, the funny story about so you got to go back in time. So this is BDUs where you'd sew things on your uniform, like you'd have your badges. So he'd already been to Ranger school. He already had his EIB. He'd had airborne air assault. Yeah. And so what he would do every day is he would randomly just sew something different on his BDU. So he'd show up the formation and you got to know cadets that are like, you got to understand, like, if you're not listening, if you like, it's hard to explain. Like cadets are like very wound tight, right? So like he would come out and there would be like he's wearing like airborne wings and one day and then somebody would be like, look at you and the military is like that. What badges you have and patches on your uniform.
Oh yeah.
People judge you very quickly. That's one of the things. Like so he would do this and there was another guy in our squad that was prior enlisted too, and he took offense to this. So he was like, what are you doing? Like blah blah blah. And so he would just randomly, so in the middle of the night, him and I would like decide to just sew on an EIB, like it was like on his uniform. With the red lights. No. I mean, you're in the like. It wasn't like that, but it was just so crazy to watch him just torment this guy. So I think he ended up. I want to say he went right to Bragg right away. So he went as a platoon leader Bragg. Yeah, he was at Bragg before. I think he was in the 325 at the time, but I think he went back. So I haven't talked to him in 30 some
years.
Hope
he's doing well.
He was doing well. I mean, I'm sure he was a guy that, but it was fun to, like you said before, there's always people, and it goes back to what we've talked about and things. It's the military. You find your people, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And your people could be anybody, and those people are your people for a long time. Like I think I saw him, like it's shocking. I remember his name and those stories. It was like it was just yesterday, but that's kind of how the military is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what they say. I mean, it's a small world and you do run into people, you know, in the weirdest places. So, yeah. I just recently, I went to airborne school with a female NCO and we were like number 1 and number 2 jumpers every time. And I remember we were holding hands the whole way up in the airplane, like, you know, okay, we got this. Yeah, well, we're girls. We're hyping each other up. Oh, we got this, you know. But fun fact about her, I couldn't tell you her name, but she's one of the first trial female Ranger classes. Like she went and did one of the trial classes. But anyway, I ran into her last summer. So I went to airborne school in 2019 maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
You're like a baby paratrooper.
I know I'm a little baby paratrooper, but that's okay. I'm good at what I do. And I ran into her last summer.
Before we get into the paratrooper stuff, so because that's going to go off to a whole different way. But so you originally were commissioned as a quartermaster officer, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioned as a quarter officer, Matt.
Quartermaster officer.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew I wanted to do civil affairs, and I had linked up with the 412, and I remember now Major Casserly, amazing guy, like mentor. Oh, he's wonderful. He's like, well, you can't commission into CA, but we have an S4 slot you can fill until your first lieutenant promotable. So that's what I did.
Yeah, so we're different people. Like the Guard has slots, so we've talked about it before with soldiers that have taken certain MOSs because they want to be there the same way. Like civil affairs is not for people that listen that don't. It's not an initial branch. That's right to say it. It's a
advanced branch. I don't know. I don't know what you. I don't know.
I can't. It'll come to me in a couple more sips of whiskey, but functional group, right?
Yeah.
Functional group.
There you go.
So that certain part of your career, you can say, I want to do that. I want to be a multifunctional decision. I want to be operations. I want to be a civil affairs officer. So you did know what you were doing at that point. I mean, because it seems like from the very beginning, you were just kind of winging it a little bit. No, I'm joking, but so
just kind of doing what sounded sexy at the time, basically. I think is what my like, blinders were giving me, I guess, whatever. But yeah, by then I had kind of figured out how to play the game a little bit. I knew what I wanted to do. I couldn't be a medic as a commissioned officer. So I was like, in med corps as a commissioned officer just didn't appeal to me at the time because I didn't really have like any kind of specialty medical degree. So I would have been, I don't know, like hospital admin or something, which just isn't something I wanted to do. So looked into civil affairs, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go be a female Green Beret, female Ranger. But it was the year before they opened up combat arms to females. So I was like, well, civil affairs sounds cool. We get to hang around, do the fun stuff, jump out of airplanes. So signed me up. So that's why I went with that. And it's been good. It's been good. It's a great field.
So you showed up the civil affairs unit, not airborne qualified then. That's
correct. Right? Yeah.
Did they make fun of you? They I hope they did. They had to.
You know what? Yes. My first NCO, Sergeant First Class Stewart, he is amazing. He made me look good. I mean, he was a great NCO, but I don't think I heard ma'am one time. It was just, hey leg. But, in the office when it was just us two, not in front of people, but, it was rude. You really get put down.
Yeah. So people listen, the leg is what we call non-airborne qualified people. Yeah. There's a great, I almost posted one, but there's like, I forget the company, but they take all these like 1950 videos and 60s and they like the old Army training videos and they make it all about airborne and it's just derogatory stuff about legs. And if you're not airborne, it's like, you're like, this isn't funny. But if you were, you're like, this is hysterical. Like it's just a funny thing because it's one of those things. Like if you're in the airborne community, you do make fun of everybody who's not airborne, right?
Yeah. I mean, with all the love in our hearts, we need non-airborne people in the Army, but
we do.
But what are they for? Yeah, for sure. But
no, I didn't know about airborne school holding people's hands. I can't imagine hyping myself up and being like to my RTO, like, hey, or my ops NCO, like, hey, Sergeant Ross, let's hold hands. I need to hype up for this jump. I don't think that was ever going to happen for me. Like, listen, here, John, come here, give me my hand. Like, I mean, ours was different, hyped up. Like,
listen to like death metal before you go up or something like that.
Well, it was like, so, I mean, we're both airborne community. We kind of make fun of you guys a little bit more.
What do you mean you guys? Oh,
the civil affairs, like the civil affairs folks, like the airborne division, like 82nd is kind of in its own thing. Like we make fun of everybody that's not the 82nd, right?
Right.
Like 173rd, we make fun of them.
Yeah.
I get it. We make, like the civil affairs guys, the airborne, like the 101st, they're not. I mean, but that's how the Army is. You make fun of even in the airborne. The airborne makes fun of.
That's how you bond. You haze and you make fun of people. That's how you bond.
You cannot say haze anymore.
I'm sorry.
What's the 2023 word for hazing? Because I don't know if you can say that anymore. What is it like? You challenge people. You challenge them.
I asked your board members before this what words I was not allowed to say, and that did not come up.
No, I'm just saying in the world. I don't know if you can say anymore. Like you can't like hazing. Anytime you talk about like hazing in sports, hazing in like the military, but it is. You do get hazed. Like I hate to say it. That's like part of the
harmless. It's harmless. It's harmless. Initiation.
It's-
It doesn't count.
I would challenge that the hazing that we were doing in military school, not all of it was harmless.
Yeah.
But the difference for me is like it's a different generation, right? So
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I knew
Wait.
when I went into that situation, you knew that what you were walking yourself into. So you
Mhm.
knew you were going to get hazed or
Mhm.
challenged or whatever. You got to know that. So I hope the kids today, that's why I would say, like, you don't know, like, at military school, like next month is, or, September is alumni weekend. So all the new freshmen are there, and like, and all the military school chats are all making fun of these kids like now, but you wonder, like, you don't want I definitely don't want anybody being exposed to what we were exposed to, but there's a party that's like, they better be getting some kind of, like, they better be getting hazed. Maybe a 4, like on the pain chart, like the 10. Everybody wants to stay away the 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
But definitely you should get to the 7 of hazing.
I'm telling you, it builds camaraderie. Like, it's bonding, it toughens you up. And, hazing, I shouldn't have said the word hazing, but like just giving each other a hard time for stuff. I'm like totally backpedaling on this one. But it's fun. It's fun. And that's how you make your best friends, honestly. I mean,
no, and I mean, this is one of the things I love to talk about. It is true. Like, it honestly is the organization still have hazing. The military has it. Like, I mean, we're not talking about physical hazing. We're talking about shit, like shitting on people, making fun of like everything you can't do in the regular world is what you still do in the military. I mean, they make fun of, like, you get a haircut, they make fun of your haircut. Like,
yes,
you gain 10 pounds, your BDUs are tight, someone's gonna say something to you. Like, you eat peanut butter in the porta potty, people say something to you. Like, you
eat something the wrong way. Somebody,
but that's the culture, right? But I still hope today you can. There's some organization where porta potty peanut butter. That's a new thing, but no, it is. I wonder if that. So I'm glad to hear that still goes on. So, like, especially in the airborne community, there is, like, airborne school isn't a hard school, right? I would say it's not hard, right?
No, anybody can do it if you have, like, I mean, you got to run a lot. You got to run a lot. But it's not difficult. It does not require a advanced skill of any kind.
No, just involves listening and then hurling yourself out of something. But it does involve, you have to be physically fit. What I mean is, like, there's a lot of tradition that goes back to that school for a long time. So a lot of things that how they treat you, and it's all the kind of stuff is normal. How they refer to you, like, it's one, like, that's one of the that's we all want to say things like, when you, like, the guys and gals went through airborne school in the 50s, they want to be, the same thing as if in 2023, you want to have some of those same experiences that they had before, and that's that's important for us, I think, in the community, right? So, but so you go in 2019, you go to airborne school. So as an officer, you go as an alpha.
Yes, I went as a second lieutenant. Yeah. So, that's the thing. I did not want to go to airborne school. When I found out what a paratrooper was, I was like, that is not for me. I'm afraid of heights. Like, no way, Jose, am I jumping out of an airplane? And they were like, well, you're going to airborne school. So I was like, okay.
Sometimes I think you're not thinking out some of these things. Like,
I
don't like blood, but I'm going to become a medic.
I'm
going to go to civil affairs, but and the A in the parentheses on it, that means airborne. Just so that I mean, that's what that means. So I feel like somebody should have been like, that's what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I get into stuff. I don't know why I make decisions that I do. Can I blame it on being a Pisces? Is that no? So
you're like, are you into the?
No, it's a joke.
Okay, because you'd be the first person to talk about that. I was like, holy crap, we're not going to get into the Capricorn Pisces. That was like.
It's like two things don't talk about politics and
maybe we have to put that one in there. I mean, we haven't talked about astrological signs. I mean, if you believe it, I mean, I'm cool with that. That's not politics. I mean, but it's a fun joke to make make around. Like, what's like I don't even know what that means anymore. Like, what's a Pisces supposed to be? Like,
okay.
What's a
really?
Do you think I'm kidding? Like, I mean, I mean, I'm a Capricorn. I don't even know what that means. Like, I'm not reading my horoscope.
The Pisces is like, everyone knows, like, it's based on when you're born, and so, like, where the moon phase was. Okay, I do think it carries some weight because, gentlemen, there's energy that comes, that's in the atmosphere and the environment, all that stuff. And so when you're born, there's a certain amount of, like, pressure on you as you're being developed and stuff, depending on the season. So I think it carries a little bit of weight. But the Pisces is fish swimming in opposite directions. So I blame my inability to make decisions on being a Pisces all the time. It's a great go-to to not have to make any big decisions on
I'm about
things.
to figure out what the Capricorn is and blame all my problems on that.
I think Capricorn.
Is it Capricorn something about drinking whiskey and like
No,
having a short temper? And
I think people don't like Capricorns. I'm serious. I think like,
I can see
oh,
that.
you're a Capricorn. Like that's what I hear people talk
Sorry
about.
that. I feel like it's
Yeah.
more like having your birthday 2 days after Christmas. That's why you become angry. Nobody cares about your birthday. It
I
doesn't have
feel
to.
so bad
That's
for
where the
you.
answer. That's where the like. I mean, like if you're born in like July and on the 4th of July, no one gives a fuck about your
No.
birthday. It's 4th of July, right?
Christmas would suck because you're getting presents and you're getting more presents and
Yeah, there's a.
everyone's already ate their Christmas dinner. So everyone's like, oh, we gotta eat cake again, you know, like
But Christmas Day would be even better because people are still in the festive mood. Like 2 days after, no one cares. Like they're festive. You've had the family get together. You probably had a fight. 80% of the
Yeah.
families have had a family fight. Right? Nobody wants to be around the family. The
Date-
last thing you want to do is be like, let's get everybody together to celebrate your birthday. Like, no. And then the funny thing is, like, come the 29th, everybody's fired up for a party again. 'cause
Right,
it's New Year's Eve,
right. Yeah.
right? And you're like,
Yeah.
holy cow! Like, what? Like, did we just forget about?
Yeah. March is a perfect time to have a birthday because holidays are over.
True.
It's not spring, it's not summer yet. And you're in that lull of like seasonal depression, February, March. And it's just like, let's celebrate me. It's a great month to have a birthday.
Me.
Yeah, no, I'm not like, but my mom's birthday is 2 days before me. So we always celebrate together. So
That's cool.
yeah. So I have a good time with my birthday.
So still close to your parents?
Oh, yes. They're amazing. I love them so much. Yeah. My mom's a high school math teacher, and my dad is the owner of a steel fabrication company. He's a draftsman. So, yeah, very proud of my parents. They're awesome people.
Hopefully they're proud of you, though, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
Well, okay. So I think this is a good time to share.
Oh,
this
somebody
story.
said we're so proud of our badass granddaughter. Love you.
That's my
Pat, and-
Gammy. Yeah,
Awesome.
she's my biggest fan for sure.
Man, we got grandparents watching. This is big.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you did hear that she stole, but I mean, don't judge her.
No, but
She stole and she didn't want to be a paratrooper. Like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's two things.
Like,
One more strike and you're out of
I
here.
know. I need
The
to
hazing
just-
will let you get over that. But
I need to let you do most of the talking.
No, that's fine.
No,
That's
but
fine.
my dad, I'll never forget when I joined the military. So I started saying like, I hadn't told anybody. I wanted it to be my decision. And so I did not tell anybody until I had signed and it was official. And I couldn't go back on the decision, you know. So remember, I came home from Mets that day and sat down at the table, and we always had like family dinners. So it was mom, dad, my two brothers. And I was like, guys, I got to tell you something. And my dad goes, you're a lesbian. I knew it. And I was like, no, like join the military. So
I was going to go with the pregnant route. I mean,
yeah, no,
I mean,
no. So.
not there's anything wrong with being a lesbian. Let's see.
No,
like,
not at
it's 2023. You have to be.
All
you
my
have to be
best
very
friends
clear.
are lesbians. I love them to death. Like I would pick a lesbian over a lot of people any day. But yeah, so dad didn't talk to me for a couple of days just because he's like an internalizing kind of guy. So kind of had to ride that out a little bit. It was really awkward. And then my mom, of course, was like, you know, oh, we'll support anything you do.
Right.
And my brother was like, the one who did our OTC, he was like, all right, yeah, that's going to be good for you, you know. So it was good. And now everyone's huge supporters. So it was good. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is like your story is interesting because it's a little bit later in life. You're talking like 22,
Yes.
23. So
Yeah.
it's like I think that's easier for some parents to process. Like, you know, you've done some things you thought a lot bit more than like when you're
Yeah.
17 or
You're so baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
like I just was listening to a podcast and it was actually World War II, a Marine who he's 98, I think, and he talked about when World War II started, he was only 16. He was like 4 months away from you had to be 17 to enlist, and he went to the recruiter, and the recruiter's like, you can't do this. You got to come back. You know, bring this piece of paper back, sign when you're 17.
Yeah.
And I mean, this kid, you know, I mean, this guy at 17 years old was thrust into,
Yeah.
you know,
Like
World War II, and actually was one of like 18 survivors in his company on Iwo Jima. So like, nothing has changed over the time of like when somebody in 1940 said they were going to join them, or you know, to today when you tell your parent that
right.
you're going to join. I would tell everybody is like to support it if that's your child, or your grandchild or someone is like, you know, it takes a lot of courage to do what a lot of us have done.
It does,
And believe it or not, no matter how ingrained it is to you, like some people say like when they're 14, 13, I always knew I wanted to go in the Army early, but I still wanted the support of my family to say, hey, this is good. You need that support. So it's a great organization.
It's a hard decision to make because it really is going to take a lot of your life. And if you don't have that support, I can imagine it would feel very lonesome, going into it, because it's hard, like going through basic training, it's hard, and it's a lot of kids first time away from home. And so it's good to have a support system, whether it's family or just friends or, whatever community you have, you got to have somebody to talk to about it, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so. It definitely is, because you have the different, especially in today's world where you have kids that are, like one of my son's best friends, he was on the podcast. Everybody went to college. He went to the Air Force, right? So I love it. He's over living his life right now in Europe.
Where's he at? Okay.
He's in England, but he'll post pictures all the time. He's seeing the world. He's seeing the different aspect. Meanwhile, my son's living in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's a different life, and the military does change people's life. It's one of the, it does change it for the most part to the good. And we talk about some of the bad stuff that the military brings on. It's definitely it's a hard organization to be in. And I think as I'm older now, it's a hard organization when you actually leave it. You haven't got to that point yet, so it's really different when you lose your people. Yeah, we talked about before. So
we talked about that at the event at the.
Yeah, I think that it definitely is. I think that's one of the things we talked about. With Pours of Patriots, why we started is to get everybody's story, to have the camaraderie, to know there's something else out there. As you move down there, like we've talked about before, and you lose your job, you lose your friends, you lose your career, your identity, whatever.
Your home. You'd been living in a certain place for so long.
It can change your life. So
absolutely. All right. Things are going okay though.
For me?
Yeah.
I'm great. I'm an empty nester now officially. Last week, I kicked the last kid out. I just got to get rid of the oldest. No, it's been rough. You're gonna turn it on me now. It's
sorry.
Holy cow! I'm gonna start being like,
I'm not sorry. I take that back.
My baby left us. This is what happens when you let your wife come down and talk to the guests for the longest she did.
I had a good time with her.
She stayed down here the longest, I think, ever to talk to anybody. But she. For sure. Yeah, but it's true, right? She was trying to play it off, but she did stay long and talk about it. But I'm doing great. My youngest son just left. I guess I'm a semi-empty nester, right? My oldest, he still lives here.
Back then.
No, my oldest lives here. He's a nurse, so but he has a career. So he's a room. He told me yesterday he's a roommate.
He's a roommate.
That says I was jumping in bed cuddling with him before he went to work. No, but no, the weird filter of me is like, it's funny bringing that up, like where the world, like my youngest has been here by himself because his two brothers have been at college. So he is the weirdest one to leave, because now it's like, wow, we had him by ourselves for the longest time. But I don't miss him a bit, other than I lost my partner to pick up like some of the yard work when I need him.
Yeah.
The dog's going out last time before we go to sleep.
Yeah.
The guy to run down the stairs to grab me a beer.
Just somebody to do work. Yeah.
But he'll be back in the summer. He'll be back. He'll be back to his job that he had before. But I'm doing great.
Good.
But thanks for asking.
Yeah. You guys. Yeah. You should be proud of your kids. I mean, I know you are, but your wife.
I'm super proud of my kids.
Your wife was bragging on them. They sound like amazing.
I have great kids. I mean, it's been a challenge. I mean, they're not perfect kids. They're great kids. I mean, it's been a long. No, parenting is rough. I mean, it's a very different. They're better than I am. That's all I ask for. There you go. That's all. I've always, they live a better life than I live.
That's the goal. I feel like for a lot of parents. I mean, that's what I hear. That's what I read.
100%. But but you got to keep them down though. You can't just you got to give them better stuff, but you can't I think you can't just give them something better than you and not make them work for it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You just raise spoiled brats.
Because then you end up with this generation. We got heated tents, we got air conditioned tents, hot chow in the field.
Yeah, what is going on?
What is that? What kind of soldiers are we
holding hands in airborne school? I feel like that's like, what is going on? What is going on?
I know. So I see what you're saying from that angle. Yeah.
So we have one thing. I don't know where it falls in your timeline, because you're talking about another unique thing before we keep going on to you is one of the unique things about MK is she actually was married before to a service member.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that fall in the timeline of your life that we talked about before? Is this?
So we got married. So we actually met in ROTC, and which, they always say like, don't date your coworkers, your cohorts. But we weren't dating at the time. Like we were just very good friends. And I think that that's why I was so drawn to him was we, had been in undergrad and had been in grad school. ROTC was during grad school. But my very best friend, Stormy, she had graduated and moved on with her life. And so I didn't have my best friend, And so I ended up just kind of clicking with this guy in ROTC, and we just hit it off, and we'd do everything together, work out, go shoot on the weekends, go out to dinner, so it was very much so like a really good friendship in the beginning. And I think I just, I think that's what really drew me to him in that realm. So we graduated ROTC, he went active duty. And then I went reserves, and I kind of followed him. That was a really hard decision for me because I was really happy where I was. I was living in the Plains, which is a small town outside of Athens, Ohio. I had a job offer in the area. And he went active duty and wanted me to go with him to Georgia. And I'm such a homebody. I'm close to my grandparents, close to my parents, my brothers. So I didn't really want to go. But I was like, why not? Why not? I'm young. I don't want to mess up this opportunity with this guy who I'm really close with just because I'm afraid to leave. So I went down to Georgia, and then we were kind of dating, I believe, for another year. And then we ended up getting engaged, and then we got married very shortly after that. So it was a quick turnaround.
And the reason your story is interesting for people who've been on is like, we've had one spouse on before, so you're actually a spouse, and we need to get another one on. We need to get Andrew's wife on. We still trying to get her. He's back there laughing, but it's an interesting story. So you, like you said before, you said some things that were key to me. Is like you had a career going or an opportunity career, and you said, "I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go follow a guy that I love."
Yeah. Yes. And being a spouse and a service member, I know everybody has a different experience, but I had a very difficult time with it because, he was in Ranger Regiment down, 75th Ranger Regiment. And so it was difficult for me because like when I went to all the, get-togethers, whatever, military balls, dinners that they had to do, I had to fill that role as a spouse. And so, and the military spouse is a very specific type of person. I feel like there is an expectation, certain social standards, they have their own like social classes in that community. And I'm not criticizing it. It's a wonderful network. The spouses like
I'm glad you're saying because this is one of the it's
wonderful. No, it is wonderful.
But it does have its like one of the things is like what you don't understand is like we've had some people talk about, but there's like even though your spouse like there's rank among the spouses, which is crazy. So if the colonel's wife, she's the colonel's wife, so you're supposed to talk to the colonel's wife, and you're like,
and you can't be friends with her. Like you can't be friends with her, but she might invite you for coffee. But you have to know that you're there as like she's being nice to you, like she's like
you're below her,
yes,
or him, like in the different. I mean, there's different. There are military wives that have male spouses, which is different, so it doesn't change. But it is interesting. So you have a military career, you have 2 degrees, right? And you're playing.
I'm playing the spouse role. And I don't know. I never had that dream as a kid. Like I remember growing up, my cousin Audrey, we kind of grew up together, and she would always like want to plan out her wedding and draw her wedding dress. And I never wanted to do that. Never really thought about kids. So it never felt right. And that's why I had such a hard time with it, was because it felt, and the guy I was married to was an absolutely wonderful person, but it felt so icky to me because it just wasn't my journey. It wasn't my path. It was wrong. Like it felt wrong to me, But yeah, being a military spouse is tough. You got to kind of play the role a little bit, and it comes naturally to some people. But I felt like I was playing a role because it didn't come naturally to me.
Well, I think there's the role, right? I mean, I don't want to say in the bad way, but there's also like I think the key thing, and I want to thank you for this because even though you did have your career, the same thing like we said before. I think for the service member, it's easy, right? This is what we want to be doing. The spouses, it isn't easy. It isn't easy. It's not something that you're doing. Like for example, my wife left New York, came to Fort Hood.
Yeah.
Didn't know anyone, left her, her family, all that kind of stuff, and you're thrust into something that she hadn't grown up in it. But it is tough to do. And I think the one thing you said before is like a lot of spouses military spouses have a life before that, right? They
Yeah.
they have education, they have
They're
careers, and then
business
all of a sudden they're
owners,
like,
yeah.
I'm going to put this on hold for the man or woman I love to go and follow them around, and that's tough to do. I mean, I was looking at my wife now as my wife did that, and then also stayed home with kids, and for a 12 or 13 year period, put herself second and third or fourth or whatever number you want to put it, and you sacrifice a lot, and that's hard. I mean,
absolutely.
And some people can make it to the other side, and some people can't, you know. But.
And, you hear about these people who, like, the military member usually retires young. If they joined 18, 19, whatever, they're retiring around 40. And then it's like, okay, now it's the spouse's turn. And they get to be like, okay, we're living here now, or I'm running this kind of business now. So, like you said, people make it to the other side. They have all, kind of flip-flop and reverse roles, and it works out for them. So. But it was difficult. Although there are perks that come with it. Like I got access to the Ranger gyms and, got to dress up in my gowns and go to the balls, which that part was fun. And I did meet some really awesome women in that spouse group. So it had its perks. It wasn't right for me. It wasn't right for me. And I always felt like I was holding him back because I couldn't be that super supportive spouse, because I was always like in the back of my head, well, what about my career? What about where I want to live? And I knew that was unrealistic to have those thoughts with him being the active duty member. But it wasn't right. I always felt like I was holding him back from being that supportive spouse and being like, okay, yep, let's go do this. Let's go here, and couldn't do it.
So you talk about being the Ranger Regiment. This is a high op tempo unit. If you don't know, obviously deployments going on, right? So we haven't had anyone on that was, we've had one of the spouse that talked about this, but what is it like? We've had plenty of people talk about deploying. We've had guys that have sat here and said, hey, all I want to do is deploy. What's it like? You are a military officer at the time, but you're still the person you love is deploying. What is that like? Being that person that's halfway across the world from someone, not really know what's going on. And
it's kind of wild because they work in SCEFs, right? So it's like they have to be, I think that's the right term for it. No, I don't think so. It's like the secret room where you can't bring your phone.
Yeah.
SCEF, yeah, okay.
SCEF, yeah. Yeah.
So you're not talking to them. You're not talking to them all day, and so you really don't know what's going on. And you're picking up all the work at home. You just don't have that partner there that you got into when you got into the marriage. When you get married, you have a partner. You do things together. They help out with things. And so all of a sudden, you just don't have. Like sleeping at home at night alone in a new place. It's not your home. And you're still expected to go to some of the group things, so you still get invited to stuff, the social settings, and all the while you're just kind of like talking to them. It's like a long distance relationship. Yeah. It's and then
you're not with the person you want to be with.
So you kind of, and then they're not happy because the deployment's really rough, and so you're trying to be that emotional support from so far away, and they're struggling and you're struggling, and it's a lot.
Yeah, I always laugh because I'm so happy that you're on. This is one of the stories I want to get on to talk about because it's a perspective we haven't had yet. But I just laugh when I hear I always laugh about. I talk about it with the wife swap, that show with the TV where they go away from a week and these people are bawling, crying because they're away from their family, their spouse for like a week.
No,
and I watched with my wife and I'm like, what the fuck is these people's problem? And then you're like, I wouldn't be missing my wife for like 6 months. My wife I wouldn't miss you for like 9 months. Like what these people, but it is. You see these people today that you can't I can't be without my wife for like 2 days, right? And in this career we have, I get it's your person, but it's still. I think to put the military, what the struggle comes in is that whole thing is. You want to be with the person you want to be, but you also want to be doing the career that you're doing. So it's so counter of what you want to do. Like if you're in the military, you want to deploy, right? You want to be doing that as much as it sucks. If he was back at Benning and he wasn't doing it, he was miserable, right?
Yeah.
That's the vicious cycle, right? But then when but you're back home with what you want to be, but you want to be back doing something else. That's the vicious cycle of the military. And I feel like the spouses and the kids are the ones that just get caught up in like, I call it like the wash machine of like that emotion. Like, you know what I mean? Because we want to be home, right? We want to be home with them, but like after a month, you're like, Jesus Christ, like I want to go back over. I want to do this. I don't want to be going to a goddamn T-ball game. I want to be, doing this. And that's I always say, I've said this before, is if you're thinking a veteran, you definitely need to thank a spouse, a veteran spouse, and you need to absolutely thank their children, because they're the ones that I think suffer the most in this whole process.
Because you talked about it like as an adult. I mean, there's definitely like, I'm like, okay, have fun. Like, I got the house to myself. This is great. But kids, I can't imagine. I mean, they're missing a parent, So, but you made me think of a good point. There was a time I was applying for a deployment. It was one of the FET teams, female engagement teams. And I wanted to do that so bad. And I have always wanted to do one of those. Like ever since I heard about kind of like CA and, like opportunities with special forces and stuff, I always wanted to do one of the FET teams. And so I was applying for it. And I remember that was like an ongoing argument that we were having, right? Because he's like, well, it wasn't convenient or like good for him, for me to go and do that opportunity at that time. So it was like, okay, like, so I've got to keep this marriage happy, or like to compromise on this argument, I'm going to just give up this opportunity. And then you get to go continue your deployments, so that was one of the big moments. I felt like it wasn't a fair situation for me. I remember.
I think the military gives every family many opportunities to reflect and decide to be narcissistic or I'm making a joke, man, but the military family life is not an easy life. And I can't imagine, like, we talked with Mike and his wife Meg is going to come on soon. She was dual military like you, a spouse.
Okay. I'll have to come for that one.
But it's interesting to hear that, because there is, like, I couldn't imagine you saying, like, I want to deploy, and then you want to go do it, and someone saying like no, and being an Army officer, you're like, what the the first thing is like, what the fuck are you talking about here? Like, it's well,
especially because like he was on deployment rotations, and the FET team was like a very specific opportunity. You had to get accepted. Okay. They don't come around all the time. It's only an as needed by need opportunity. So it's kind of like, come on, man. But,
so the FET teams are female engagement teams. They were assigned to the special operations teams to be able to engage with the female population in Afghanistan and Iraq to deal with the cultural differences between the countries. So and it was, if you go back in time, that was, I think, like the first the women getting in like knee deep in the shit with people really quick. Now there's the times have changed where women at Ranger School, they're able to do they're in infantry units and things like that. But that was like that opportunity for women to be like at the tip of the spear. And it's interesting, like, which is, but I mean, you want, I mean, obviously it was a sticking point, right? Yeah. It wasn't something that was good, but again, as a husband or a spouse, again, you're worried about your spouse as well a little bit. I mean, I don't think any spouse wants to hear that they're going to deploy. So I think it's the same thing. Not that I've ever met it, but I think there's a dual.
I think you're right.
The military, I didn't have a military spouse. Like, my wife is the furthest thing from military spouse that can be there. Like, she would not make it like a day.
I think too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like as an active duty member, you kind of are really appreciative of that at-home support system. So like when I said, hey, I want to go and do my own deployment, then that's him losing that at-home support system, which is like crucial to somebody who's working 12, 14-hour days, going on weekly long field problems, and it's a little stuff at home that really helps.
Well, I mean, if you think about the military profession, it's kind of a narcissistic thing. Like, you're doing these things for you. You're doing
your career.
You're doing this. You're doing it. It's my career. Yeah. We're gonna come home and like I don't know how it is, but there's a lot of decisions made. Like for me, like I volunteered to go to Korea. Okay. To go to Fort Bragg, not knowing that my wife was pregnant with our first kid. And once you sign that paperwork, it's done. You're done. But I'm like, I don't give a shit. I wanted to go to Bragg, so you'll be fine for 9 months with the baby. But it is a narcissistic thing. Yeah. I don't. Is narcissistic right the way? I don't know if
egocentric. I would say. No.
I don't know. I don't know if it's to put a word on it. It's just how that career goes. Whether if you're the service member, you're gonna take the jobs that you want to take to do what you want to do. So those jobs, there's not a lot of decision making. For most people, there's not. There's a lot of people that do make decisions. Like you have stories of, I have friends that passed up brigade command because they wanted to stay. That those decisions happen. But a lot of the times, you make decisions to make your career the most successful. And the spouses, like I said before, the spouses and the children are the ones that suffer. Like all of a sudden, you're happy. Everyone's happy here at Fort Bragg, but now I just took a job. My dream job is now in Italy. We're moving to Italy. That's how it works. And
it's kind of like you got to play the game, right? Because if you want the career, if you want the military career, you have to be career focused. And sometimes that means putting your family second, or their wishes second.
No, I think you are putting. I mean, we definitely do. I mean, it's evident what happens in the military. I mean, everyone you talk to, your family is not. If you're good in the military at what you do, honestly, I don't care what any of them say to you. Your family is not your priority. No. The military is your priority. Your unit's your priority. Your soldiers, your Marines or whatever, and that's what you do. And the sad part about it is I think that it's what contributes to what we see with what's going on with veterans is we put so much into something and we do this for 4 years, we do it for 10 years, we do it for 11 years, we do it for 30 years. And then when it's all said and done, you look back and you look to the person that's supposed to be with you and they're like, this is what you fucking did to me for, for 30 years or 11 years. Or you look to the right where that person's supposed to be and they're gone because they left you, 4 years earlier. But it's a tough career. I mean, it doesn't.
And like you said, like the spouses, I mean, they really deserve like a lot of, I'm not saying that from a spouse perspective. I'm saying that from like seeing, what you have to deal with. I mean, you're agreeing to get married to that person, but they're not going to be there. And, you're coming second. So good.
I mean,
wives have to be strong, ladies. And
husbands. I mean, it is crazy. Yeah. I mean, the things that they deal with, I can't even fathom that experience of like all of a sudden, like, that you're stuck back with 2 kids or you're by yourself with your dog, or like you said it perfectly, like a place that's not your home. Yeah. Right. Because the person you're supposed to be there with is gone. I mean, and people don't realize that happens for a long time. And this past 20 years of the way the world is for the military, this happened a lot to a lot of people for a long time. I mean? And it's not easy. Yeah.
Well, and I think like what kind of goes by the wayside, but is like a huge factor is like with how the military affects relationships is like the personality changes. Like you have somebody, for us, like we went through ROTC together. It was all fun and games. Like everything is good. We're looking forward to these new careers, new lives. And you get to your first duty station and like, you can talk from an active duty perspective. It's hard. Like you're working late nights, early mornings. The stress is there. You're always nervous to meet deadlines. You don't want to make this commander mad. You're trying to impress this commander. You got your evaluation in the back of your head constantly. And so that person they're not fun to you anymore because they've got to prioritize their career if they're going to make it in the military and they're a brand new second lieutenant. They've got to keep their heads above water. And so you're dealing with them coming home with stress. Them not, being able to let things go and be your spouse. I mean, they're a soldier all the time. They're a leader all the time. I think when you first get into those situations. So that was a big disappointment.
So deployment so after deployments, did you see a change in him after that?
No. Yeah, kind of like in the sense that he just grew up a little bit, I guess, not in like I don't know, that's not the right way to say it, but he's like, okay, got the first deployment out of the way, I guess, kind of deal, because you're a new lieutenant, you're nervous, you're going out, and then you work with all these like higher officers, people who have been deployed multiple times. And so I think he actually came back kind of more experienced and rugged and more laid back after the deployment because he kind of was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I've done the job now. I can do this, if that makes sense. So,
no, I think it does. I mean, it'd be interesting. I've never asked this from an enlisted guy, but like, when does the job get scary? I assume it gets scary they're going to be like, it's never focus care for us. We're NCO. That's to be the stupid answer they give you. But like when you assume, like maybe like squad leader or you become a sergeant and you're in charge of people, but like, yeah, as an officer, it is like I think you said it perfectly. It's like you're there to prove yourself. You're there with tons of other people you're competing against. You're competing against these people.
It's
right. It's competition,
yep.
And then you're competing against your peers, and then you're also trying to win the respect and admiration of your soldiers, right?
Yeah, you want to be likable at the same time.
Yeah, and then you're like, then you're like, you're trying. I can see that 100%. Like once you get you get established, once you start doing things, and you get experience. Because like that's the thing about being a second lieutenant, they just throw you into this, and what people don't know. I mean, if you listen, you don't know, but you're in charge of everybody. Like it doesn't matter. Like day one, you're in charge of a 38-year-old dude, and why you got a DWI. You're like, I don't know why Joe went and got a DWI. I mean, I told him not to, but like, did you tell him 3 times not to? Or did you?
And then you're in trouble.
Did you tell him at the end of Friday that? No, but so I can see that happens. But it is definitely it's a tough. It's tough, but I mean, if you're good at it and you make it, and you do that, you do build confidence.
So rewarding.
It starts to stack up, and you build all those things, kind of like the Legos, and before you know it, you're like,
the Lego master.
When you're a captain, you're like you're a company commander now, right?
Yes,
so it's a jump. So now you're like, look at the lieutenant's like, what the fuck is your problem, dude? Like, what is going on? Like, I mean, how hard is this? Like, meanwhile, you're like, I would be scared shitless if it was, you know what I mean? Like I grew up in the, I got commissioned in 94. So we weren't at war. Like I've had some people on before, like, we didn't do that, but there's people that we've had on that like literally they get commissioned, they go to their unit. 2 weeks later, they were deployed to Iraq. That's a whole different, I mean, not that I don't think I could have done it. It's just a different mindset to do that. It's just, and that's
different training.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then you do it. So now we moved ahead. So you obviously not married now.
Not married now. No.
Had the. I mean, not the like. No, I'll get yelled at about bringing this up. About this was all cleared before everyone that's on the that no, because whenever you bring up some things, people like touchy things. People are like, I can't believe that you brought that up. I'm like, everything that I ask someone, it's cleared before we talk about it. I'm not like randomly.
It is so important. Okay, I'm in a good place to talk about it now. I will say that first. But I also think it is so important to share like the hard times that we've been through with other people, because other people might be going through similar things. I know this is like so cliche to say, but it's true. I mean, and if we share our stories, and divorce to me, it's a little bit of an embarrassing thing. It was hurtful for both of us. A lot of regret, a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of embarrassment. But if I'm able to like let people know, like, hey, I've been through this and I'm doing okay, and it's good to share our stories with other people, because it can kind of lift them up or get through whatever they're getting through, or you can go down what resources are available and all kinds of things. So I'm a big proponent of talking about it, no matter how muddy it is. So do you feel like you were a failure as a military spouse? Yes, I will say that definitely. I definitely failed in that aspect, but I feel not bad for myself for failing, but bad for him that he had to be married to somebody who failed him. That's how I feel about it. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like I failed him. Right. So, because I know, and that's another thing in the military, like divorce is kind of not a good thing, especially for an officer. I mean, I remember talking about it, and I remember him being like, what is my commander going to think? I have to tell him I'm divorced now. And you should never have to feel that way at your workplace. Did he say that before his family, or to his commander first? No, he said that to me when I was like, hey. No, I mean, like, was he more embarrassed about telling his commander or his family? Well, we never really talked about how he was going to tell his family, I guess. That didn't really come up. So I guess the commander was more important than telling his mom, But that's hard for people to understand, right? Like I remember going to a Christmas party before my wife moved down, fiance, and they were like the whole time they were just like, "Where's your like, you're not married?" I was like a senior, like I was about to be first son, like, "Where is this?" And I was like, "That's all everyone would talk about." And it was like the spouse is like, "Where are they doing? You can't." I'm like, she's finishing school and doing this thing, like, oh, you cannot be. And that's there's a huge pressure. It's interesting to hear that hasn't changed, because I thought maybe it would let up a little bit with, as an officer you can be single and doing your thing. It's kind of not that way, so right? No, it's like kind of like I don't want to say expected, but almost like a status thing to just have a spouse and, have a good relationship. But yeah.
So I'm going to turn that on you now, though, as being a captain, a company commander, not married. Like, how are you?
I went to Deers the other day to hand in my divorce papers finally, so I can be officially divorced in the Army. And I was like, because then your status goes from married to divorced in the military. And so that's on all of your documents. And I'm looking around the dude's computer and I'm trying to be like, can you just put single? Is that an option?
Can we get rid of the DID on
there?
Really, yeah.
He's it literally, he tried. He was a sweetheart. He tried, but it literally.
He's like, ma'am,
yeah.
you got the DID on there. You're divorced.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's just I feel like I've got the scarlet letter on me for the rest of my military career now.
I don't think so. Do you really feel that way?
I don't know. A little bit, yeah. I was gonna say it's kind of expected for some military individuals. I'm not going to say the word rank, but individuals to have several divorces and marriages.
Yeah.
But at a certain point.
The funny thing is, what you're not seeing is you just saw something that really happens. I don't think Mary Kate saw it as. I'll say it is. It is okay for enlisted people to have several marriages. Divorce, three. You could be a command sergeant major, be married in 3 times, divorced 3 times,
4 times, yeah.
And they're like airborne sergeant major.
Yeah,
You're great.
literally.
And what you just see off screen was Andrew actually kind of was like, I agree with that's the first thing I'm agree. It's true. It's but do you really feel? I mean, I would hope that the Army has changed a little bit, so it's more. But you're telling me it hasn't, though. You still feel the pressure as an officer.
I have such a good unit. Well, first of all,
just smaller unit though. So there's a thing to talk about.
Yes,
smaller. So.
Can't ignore that fact. Smaller unit. The community in civil affairs. That's what we do. We talk to people. We accept people for who they are. Yeah. We build relationships. So that is, something that it's well, I'm in the civil affairs community, so it's more. I think it's more okay. It's okay that way, but yeah.
No, definitely not. I mean, not to. I mean, I'm not. Mm-hmm. This is one of the reasons why I was hoping you would come on and talk about it because I was hoping things would change, but obviously they haven't. The act of the Army hasn't changed in some aspects. It's changed in good ways, but it shouldn't be you should be able to be a major in the Army and not be married. It shouldn't be a big deal, but that's not the way the system works. It's kind of it's still old school,
because. Yeah,
there's something wrong with you because you're not married.
Yes.
You're like.
And I do have a fear, say I go to get promoted to lieutenant colonel or, general officer, and I don't get a deployment over competing peer because we have completely equal resumes, but I've got the divorce.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I hope
it's a legitimate
happen,
concern. So. I hope it doesn't, and I don't think it would. I mean, I feel like you'd have to have a specific kind of leader to make that decision, but it's in there. It's a it's a red A.
Well, I think but it's one of those organizations where there's it's interesting to hear that it's still going on because I thought over time it would have changed, but it was one of the things officers are put on this pedestal. You can't do anything wrong. You're you can't do this, and to be this it's almost it was it's one of the things I've talked about is there's you had to be this certain person, right? It really was a cookie cutter thing of what you are.
Really, yeah.
You know what I mean? You're married, you can run fast, you can do some push-ups, but the way it is, oh shit, you're a good officer. But no, there's a lot of pressure that goes into it. And I'm sure it is the same way with NCOs, but it is different. We made a joke about it, but it is true. You can be a command sergeant major and had 7 divorces and nobody really cares, and maybe a DWI thrown in there, sprinkled in there.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't gotten a Gomar? It's no.
So are we ready for another bourbon break? Are you ready? You got? Are you going to put them together? I have to pour something into you.
I'll finish this one here. Okay, I gotta say, one of my mentors, Lieutenant Colonel Sheck, you hosted him on here. Yeah, him and I are currently in a challenge, and I believe we started back in June or July, but the challenge was for 4 months, no drinking, and you have to run at least a mile a day. So you're getting in your PT, but it's just at the bare minimum when you're having one of those days, you got to at least run a mile. So cheers to Lieutenant Colonel Sheck for this break day. I will add on a day at the end of this challenge.
So we'll get into some more things here. We don't have a lead in like you did about ROTC's a lie. but we'll lead in. We'll start off. We'll give you time to think about the civil affairs. We'll talk about
Okay.
the branch because you have a pretty unique branch.
Yes.
Your ex-battalion commander talked about a little bit, but really cool branch, and we'll talk about it. And hopefully we can talk about like what you do now. We'll end it up with that. So we're gonna end with but we could end it with it. But we're gonna talk about our second favorite featured whiskey here tonight. We're gonna feature one of our private barrel picks. We have your bottle there for when you leave, but we're gonna go back to one of our crowd favorites here at Pours with Patriots. The Jim Beam product here. You gotta love the Knob Creek. If you don't, there's something wrong with you in my mind. But, we've talked about it many times, but Jim Beam is located in Claremont, Kentucky. They produce some of the biggest names in bourbon that you've heard of. We can't say whiskey because I don't want you to get in trouble from your first sermon. But since 1795, there's been 7 generations of Beams that have been producing whiskey at the distillery. The Jim Beam brand came around in 1943 in honor of James B. Beam, who built the business after Prohibition. Fred Noe is the current master distiller. He took over in 2007 and became the 7th generation Beam family distiller. His son is actually the 8th now. And the distillery and Jim Beam brand is also, like we talked about, the one earlier is also held by a Japanese company, Suntory Holdings. So it's Beam Suntory. And in 1992, we talked about this before. The master distiller at the time, Booker Noe, created the Knob Creek bourbon. He introduced, a new style of whiskey based on the pre-prohibition standards, and then in 2010 they started offering these private barrel picks. So the one we're going to have tonight is Pours with Patriots' 3rd barrel pick. For everybody that's listening, they've hit me with DMs. We'll have a pickup here in the next couple of weeks for the bottles. Just got the tags today. I got your bottles safely, but if you want some of them, you got to hit Mary Kate up. She's going to walk away with her bottle tonight. But this is Be Resilient. It's 120 proof, 9 years old. The mash bill is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. So I think this is the one right here, right there. So we'll give you a pour of that. Oh, holy cow!
This is good. You're turning me on to bourbon. Was not a bourbon drinker before this. I preferred.
We gotta get you into that.
That's I'm into it. This is
it. Feels different. I mean, you don't have to get bloated from the beers. You know.
Yes. It's warm. The wintertime's coming up. It makes you feel warm.
But it's if you like whiskey or bourbon, like you said, the funny, like you don't like the ones that make you burn. I like when it burns you in your chest and makes you sweat.
Like a man thing.
But I don't know. Whiskey is turning into a guy and gal thing. There's all.
Oh yes. I
mean, there's guys that don't like that don't like the high proof stuff too, like Jason. He's not here tonight, but Ryan Welsh, he's up there killing bears, but one of our friends. But no, I mean, the thing about whiskey, I think the hard thing about whiskey and why we kind of tied it into this, it's just a background thing. Like we're drinking whiskey, it's here talking about it a little bit, but the thing that was about whiskey is I think some people are turned off because they don't know about it, right? And it's one of the things that once you try, it's always fun to have somebody drink something and be like, oh my gosh, this isn't what I thought it was. Or last time I drank whiskey was, I was at OU. Partying and I drank Jameson or Jack Daniels. You're like, we're not doing that. We can, but no, not Jameson. But we'll do some other stuff. But no, it's always, I think, just trying something you're surprised, like, holy cow, this is actually.
I think it's good. This is something that you have to come open-minded and say, well, I can, even though my preference isn't for whiskey on like a Tuesday night. I can appreciate tasting the different ones. And that's what's fun about it is you guys have already introduced me to a couple different kinds, and I'm really appreciating them for how different they are, how unique they are, the backgrounds on them. So it's fun to learn about.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a nerdy thing. I think one of the things you talk about that it is funny. People think like you look at these bottles and these taste the same, and they really don't. That's what I think that's the cool thing about it. And then the thing about it, I think we've talked about before, some people is bourbon is the American spirit, and it has a lot of history. And that's like, and we're in Ohio, we're super close to the Mecca in Kentucky. So there's a lot of history that goes into it. And you can get like attached to a certain brand because of, an experience going down there or enjoying it with someone. But it's delicious. Right?
I always find it interesting how you can like have a favorite beer or favorite drink, and a lot of that is based on the experience you had it in. Because I don't know about you, but like I've had beers or drinks or whiskeys where I'm in one setting, I'm having them, oh my gosh, I love this, it's so good. Then you have it in another setting, and of course you've got all the elements to think about, like the temperature, that you're drinking in the glass it's coming out of. But I think like the atmosphere and the company you're drinking it in has a lot to do with your memory of how it tastes.
No, 100%. I think whiskey, the people that are into whiskey and bourbon, that's a big thing too. Is I have bottles that are stashed away. If we had to look at them, I could probably tell you where I got them, most likely who I was with, and it is an experience to share something with someone. Yeah, but you are right. It does have an emotional value to you. But then sometimes, if you're by yourself and you drink, you're kind of like, I don't really like this as much as I thought.
Right.
But no, but I mean, but to me, like whiskey's. But it's I don't know. I bartend part time, so I always tell people it's 2 ounces or 1.5 ounces of something. A beer is a beer. Like I'm not asking you to drink that for the rest of your life. It's one fucking beer. Like that one beer isn't going to change. I mean, it's not going to ruin your life if you didn't like it. You tried something different. I mean, but yeah, whiskey. I think whiskey is bigger. It's probably the biggest thing with that. Like there's a lot of people that are tied into. Where you got it, who you got it with, who you drank it with, and most of the bottles that you really want to enjoy, it is something that you open with someone else.
Okay.
It's not like a beer. You can't a beer. Like we're not going to share that beer. I'm glad
you want to taste.
I've had that. The fun thing is when you took that, you're like, should I take this? It
was the last one.
It's the last one. A brown thing. I think Phil Davis gave me that, and he's going to be mad that you're drinking. I don't know what I was supposed to do with it, Phil. She enjoyed it. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But like a beer like that is different. Like maybe like barrel aged beer.
Yeah.
It's like, something like that.
Do you like the barrel aged beers?
No, but I like.
So thick.
They're all giving me eye, but we're going to try one tonight after this. But it's more of I enjoy those because I share them with other people. So there's like people are going to drink.
Yes.
There's 16 ounces. I have like 3 or 4 ounces. I love it and do that. But that's I think that's the way that why I allow the whiskey part to come into this is it builds a community. It builds like people that you're sharing stuff with, and like if you've never been here, like on top behind the gigantic screen, people don't realize how much food or how many bottles of whiskey are back there.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like people bring it what they like and to try that, and it's always fun. You should definitely this is the healthy way to do it. I think we're not drinking by yourself. You're sharing with them. Not that I don't drink by myself, but
and you can do that in moderation too. Yeah, absolutely.
Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, I do it in moderation. But maybe sometimes I get a little Joe Smith on people. A little inside joke over there.
No, I definitely was.
Just last podcast was no. It's but anything you do in moderation, right? Like, you can't even work out. You shouldn't be working out every day.
Ugh, no. I work out every day. Okay. But I will say, keep it to 10, 20 minutes. You don't need to be doing an hour and a half workout every day, especially not at our age. Like
your age,
that ship has sailed.
You're old. Your age. What are you talking about? Like, I mean, I need to be doing more than 20 minutes a day. That's just me. But I'll get now that I mentioned Esther, maybe I'll get into that. It'll be a whole different, a new me. But so you said back this. We talked about, your failure as a Army spouse.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
The one time I failed in life.
Hey, but
I'm just kidding.
No, I know, but but it is an interesting thing that it'd be interesting to see if you heard this and how you thought about that. But it's like I would tell you you're not a failure. Like I try to pump people up. Like it's not for everyone, and I can't imagine going down that route with a dual military spouse. That's even crazier to go through and do that. So I would absolutely tell you if you think you failed, stop being hard on yourself. You gave it a go. You did something. You followed love. You followed the person that you followed someone's passion, and you made it out the other side, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't know. I'm sorry, I lost it. I was gonna say something else.
So we got to talk about. So you're now a company commander for. You just recently took command.
Yes, in May.
Yep. All right. So civil affairs, smaller units. How many people in your company?
Well, I'm the headquarters company commander, so that's about 100. Well, I think last I looked at my books today, we're at 82. But in civil affairs, you have smaller companies. I started out as a civil affairs officer in Bravo Company as a team chief. And oh my gosh, I think we only had 20 to 30 soldiers. Yeah. I mean, small companies, because you work in teams in civil affairs. So you've got your you've got your team chief, your team sergeant, and then your 2 Joes, basically.
Right.
And so that's how you operate in civil affairs. You might have 4 of those in your company, and then you've got a CMOC, which is your command center, basically, who's going to, like, the teams report to the CMOC reports to the battalion. So, but yeah, I started out, took command of HHC. And I remember every other commander, because I'm like, should I take command? That's another thing in civil affairs. It's generally majors who take command. It's very rare to see a captain take command because you don't commission into civil affairs till you're first lieutenant promotable. Yeah. And then you're a captain, you're a team chief, team leader, CMOC chief, whatever. And then you take command when you're a major. So when I was presented the opportunity by my previous battalion commander, I hesitated greatly because I'm like, I am still a semi brand new captain, and it was a huge compliment that I had the opportunity, but I didn't want to fail the soldiers by not having the experience, not knowing what I was doing. But I had there was a really great first sergeant already in the position, experienced E7, full-timer at Fort Knox. I'm not sure if he's full-time for the Guard or Reserves, but he's at Fort Knox right now. So it was kind of like and then in HHC, you have a lot of majors, master sergeants. So you've got that experienced support team surrounding you. So it was a really good, everybody says, oh, don't take HHC as your first command. HHC is a beast, but you have that experienced support system surrounding you. So you really can't fail. I mean, if you reach out and you talk to people, I say that I haven't ended my command yet, so I still very well could fail yet. But I feel very supported in the role, and I don't feel like a deer in headlights being a young captain taking HHC, because I feel like I've got great assets around me who can help out, when I've got questions and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, and I mean, in the civil affairs, like you said before, that you generally have more senior NCOs. You have officers that have had prior military lives in different branches and moved on. So it's definitely like I don't know if it's a second career, but a functional area. That's the word we're looking for, functional area.
Yeah,
that's the word we were looking for earlier. But it is different. I mean, but you do generally like the civil affairs. My first introduction to civil affairs was Afghanistan. When you meet like the civil affairs, it was a reservist. Okay. And he actually was a Harvard professor.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he was a math teacher, and he was a civil affairs captain. And he was in the, this guy pulled out of Harvard and was like actually one of the baddest motherfuckers you've ever met when it came to dealing with the civil affairs. So like, we don't have a lot of time. It goes by so quick sometimes talking a good conversation. Yeah. I really enjoy that. But the civil affairs, what do you, in 2 sentences, what do you think your job is? I say to win, like,
hearts and minds.
Win the hearts and minds. Like the civil affairs are the people that are like, hey, you do this, we do that. They're there to build.
We are the
statesman, the soldier, yeah.
We are the commanders' liaisons on the ground with the local populace. So it's like, you go out, we've got our infantry guys who are there doing their thing. And then you send in your civil affairs troops, and we are there making community relations. And so, like you said, winning the hearts and minds so that we have that local support from the troops. And then, we always can support the commander in the way of like, hey, this is the culture that you're dealing with. These are the recommendations for how to best deal with this culture on ground. So it's a very important job, but I know, it's not a new field, but it's a difficult field to manage as a maneuver commander because it's so subjective. It's
it's been around for a long time. I think it's been around for a long ass. It's been around for a long time. I mean, you go back to. It's an old branch, but it just I think in the past 20 years I feel like I'm not a civil affairs guy, but I just feel like it found its place in the past 20 years. In the past 2 conflicts we've had, it's found its place, its need of like different cultures, like all this kind of stuff that happened in the past. Like, if you think about it, World War II, big picture, that most of the people, they were German, but they were Catholic. They had the same belief systems and a lot of things. The civil affairs, when we go to Afghanistan, you couldn't have 2 different cultures. You couldn't have any 2 different cultures in Iraq. So the civil affairs, I think, have played a huge role. It like stepped up. Not that they didn't do great things back then, but I think your branch has like thrust itself to the
We
the tip of the
figured
spear
out.
to be like the you know, it was a quote that I sent with with General Powell
Yeah.
on the promo thing that we put out for it's been around for a long time, but you guys are soldier statesmen all together. You were
Mhm.
you're the people that are trying to hold everything together and rebuild after
Yes. Yeah.
everything goes horrible
Mhm.
for us and them and everybody else, and it's a difficult situation to be in.
Yeah.
And I was always thankful to have a civil affairs person to blame it on.
Are you really?
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, this guy. I mean,
Yeah,
he
they've got the kind of checkbook.
he's the one that said to do this. I mean, hey, no, it was.
Yeah, no, it's a great branch. I love it. I'd recommend it to anybody. And we have a lot of infantry guys who get out,
Yeah.
combat engineers who get out, and they still want to be. That's the cool thing about civil affairs is you're on the ground,
Yeah.
so they still want to be out there doing the job, and civil affairs is where it's at. So plus you get to jump, Pathfinder school.
That's one of the things to talk about. Like to bring it up was like you. That's when I got out on active duty. I wanted to join the civil affairs unit. And my wife was like, no, because she knew exactly. She knew too much about it. I was like, shit, because I knew I would have probably deployed again. I knew it deployed again, but I was like, I just want to be back on jump status. But no, the civil affairs units are great. And there are a ton of National Guard civil affairs units, right?
Yes.
Well, there's active duty as well, but there's an opportunity to do that. You do get to do cool stuff. Like your old battalion commander and former guest is always sending me pictures of jumping in the lakes and all this kind of stuff. These primo jumps.
Yeah, we went down to Miami and jumped. We jumped Miami, Florida into the ocean in March.
But you can't drill this weekend because they don't have enough money anymore because everything
Isn't that wild? People laugh. Like my family laughs. They'll be like, "Oh, when do you have drill?" My mom's always like, "When do I need to watch the dogs? When do you have drill?" And I'm like, "We don't have drill for 2 months because the Army ran out of money." I mean, that's not a lie.
When you told me that the other day, I was like, I had to check with some people.
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard of that because I guess things have changed. But I'm like, holy cow, that's a.
Well,
but that's a stressor for what people don't realize either is like the National Guard for some people, the reserves. That's a paycheck that people are counting on. So it is stressful for someone.
And travel, I think, is the biggest thing because they got to put soldiers up in hotels who are coming in from California, Hawaii, Guam. We've got people coming in from all over. So we've got people coming in from Italy. Their spouses are in the 173rd and they're flying in to drill it.
That's crazy.
Wherever. So yeah, they ran out of lodging and kind money.
So we talked about jump master school. You're a Bragg jump master.
Yes.
What about your boss? Wasn't a jump master though, was he?
No, but
Lord.
We're
not get that, but the reason I break this is we talked about airborne things. Like, so for if you don't know. If you went to the only jump master school to me is Bragg, right?
Oh, absolutely.
For all of us, if you went to Benning or like some MCT, I think they call them whatever. You're like some special forces thing. You're like, you're not a real jump master.
No,
right?
They're real jump masters. They're just not as good. They're just not as good.
No, but it is. It's a different. There is we talk about the hazing or the ribbing. That's the thing. Like if you tell me you're a Benning jump master, I'm kind of like. Come on, man.
It's like kind of like you got your ranking systems between like ROTC, direct. What's the other one? OCS, and then your military schools. Your military academies like West Point and stuff.
Right.
It's like
so. What do you think was different about jump master school at Bragg? Why do you put it at the top?
Well, it's okay. Well, it's a home of the airborne, number one. Like that's how.
But Benning is the home of the airborne, though. That's what the Benning
is. It?
That's what airborne school started was Benning.
But isn't Bragg? What's Bragg's thing?
That's where the airborne is, the home of the airborne now. But Benning was definitely. It's actually Camp Moore. What is it? Fort Moore now? I think we're calling it the wrong name, isn't it?
Bragg.
Oh, it's Liberty. Moore. It's Liberty.
No, Moore. I'll never refer to Bragg as Liberty, but what's Benning now?
Oh, I don't know what Benning is.
Fort Moore.
They did change the name.
It's Fort Moore, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're just making a joke. Yeah, it's all crazy.
Can we circle back really quick to something though?
What's that?
Circle back.
No, my old battalion commander, he was such a brave soldier because he hadn't jumped for many years, and then he came to an airborne unit, and he let me throw him out of the airplane. My first AJ, and I was pushing him out. So
AJ is assistant jump master. But so the people that know, like the airborne community, you get like. There's even status in the airborne community. Like there's 5 jump chumps, we call them, like guys that went to guys and gals who went to airborne school
Cherry
for reenlistment or
jumpers.
whatever, ROTC, they get it, they jump 5 times and never jump again. You're not a leg. But then there's paratroopers. You heard MK talk about the term paratrooper. She's throwing that around really.
What?
I mean, she's
Willy-nilly.
civil affairs. I don't know if she's a paratrooper. Like, I was a paratrooper. No, the 82nd, like it's a different term. Like I'm joking around, but there's a we like to give each other a hard time, but like there's definitely like a 5 jump compared to like a paratrooper, like that you wore a maroon beret, you were on airborne status,
Yes.
you blast your boots,
versus
yeah,
the guys
the cool.
who went to airborne school but like don't jump. They don't have HDOs, hazardous duty orders, or like,
You don't get $150, which hasn't changed in like.
Is that how much you guys?
How much
made?
you guys need for jump
I
pad?
don't know. It's probably somewhere around there.
It hasn't
I don't
changed.
know.
Like it's a crazy thing. Like, it's been like this almost the same. It's like it was $100 in 1940. No, it's like it hasn't changed. But it doesn't matter. Like, but but if you are on airborne stash, you get like 150 or 100. How much do you get now? 100. What do you get?
I
Now?
think it's like 125. For some reason, 25 is sticking
This
out
went
to me.
down.
No.
Oh my, come on.
Maybe.
But you get paid extra money, and like $150 is $150, right? Like
Oh yeah. You know how
Yeah.
much bourbon that'll get you for a weekend?
not a lot, maybe one bottle, but
Yeah.
no, but then we talk about, so then there's the structure, like, so jump master is someone that is in charge of the airborne operation. They're the person that controls actions inside the aircraft. They supervise what's going on and do that. So there's also like a level in that community. And then
Yes.
we have basic airborne, then you have senior parachutist, and you have master parachutist. So
Mhm.
she's still just
No.
you're a snow cone jump master.
No, I'm a senior rated jump master.
You have
so-
your star already?
Yes,
Oh,
I've
okay. I
got
didn't
my
know that.
star.
Okay, it's a term we have. I stand corrected. It's okay.
I've got my
but,
star.
Holy cow, it's so easy. Like, how many jumps you have then?
You know, I just counted the other day. I'm close to 40. I'm somewhere right around there. I want to say 36.
A 10 of 15 in the water,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. All the
Yeah, we've done some cool play. Now, I didn't get to jump into the water because I was pulling Pathfinder duties. I was on the boat all day getting sunburned. So,
that's not a bad place.
no, it was not a bad gig. We pulled off to some island and took a break, and it was good. It was a good day. That was awesome. Definitely. Not paratroopers can go their whole career and not have a water jump, so it was a cool opportunity.
Maybe someday you will.
Maybe
Someday.
someday. Maybe someday I'll be a real paratrooper.
Someday you'll be able to mass tack. No, but there's all the airborne community has some fun things, and that's what I love about our communities. We constantly give everybody
Always.
shit. Like, and if you had a master parachutist, they'll give you, like, I'm sure somebody will be giving me shit that's a master parachutist.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's one of the craziest things. So, like, you have to do, a certain number of jumps, certain number of duties, and it's a huge deal to get your star, and then your star and wreath. It's like it's a big deal. It's kind of a cool.
Well, and then after you
thing
get your
about-
wreath, you can be a centurion and get to 100. Which I don't know why they don't have a different badge for that. That's
I
a
don't think
big
it's a badge.
deal.
Yeah, but it depends where you're at, though. So, like, I mean, I feel like it depends. Like for you, I think the unit you're in, like that number is crazy, right?
Yes.
So for the numbers that when I was at Bragg, I don't think that's a
Oh,
crazy number. I had
okay,
like
okay.
E6s and E7s that had 130
Okay.
jumps.
Yeah, I get
Like
that.
I think
that.
one time I was during All American Week, I was talking to
yeah.
some World War II vets, and I think at the time it was General Vines. I think General Vines had like over 150, 200 jumps. Like you could jump there. You're jumping a lot. Like you have the
That's
opportunity to do it.
wild.
Yeah, so I
That's
mean,
wild.
I think like I don't know. I wouldn't want another badge. I think those badges like they have a symbol
That's
for
memory.
what we mean. I mean, like they have a purpose. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Did you jump any cool aircraft? Non-standard aircraft?
We're in the 82nd. We look at the. I mean,
That's true. You guys are
I mean,
C-17s all day.
I've done Chinook. I've done Black Hawk. I've done
You ever do the Huey? Or no, not the
Done.
Huey. I'm sorry. What's the
Chinook.
Osprey? Yeah.
Osprey. No Osprey for me. I've done the Casa. I've done how you're supposed to be a paratrooper, which is combat equipment at night out of a C-130 or C-17. That's the way you do it.
Listen, I love jumping combat.
All your
equipment.
shit on you,
So
sweating,
heavy.
holding hands next to the person next to you, hyping yourself up. I missed that. I would have been so prepped if I'd have been like, I just wanted like next. I just wish I could have now. As the first time I was a jump master to like walk up to the number one jumper and be like, man, let's hold hands. Let's get psyched for this.
We were nervous and we were little girls.
But that's the question I had before. Like, I think it's funny. Like, you always talk to people that like if you ever like I never gotten. I was more nervous after I did it probably like 20 times or whatever, like 20. We start to realize
Uh-huh.
all the things that go around. In the beginning, you're like, you're naive. It's fun.
Well,
It's
trust the
exciting.
equipment.
No, I mean, you're like a lemming. You just do it. Like you're taught, like everyone's schools like teach you to do these things. Like
Yeah.
boom, 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 you do it. And then like, but you start to learn what's happening, all the things that are going on. You're aware. And then like, maybe after the 10th jump, you actually jump out with your eyes open and you're like, oh, this is so cool. Like, but I mean, there's all these things that go into it. But like, I always said before, like everyone always says they're not nervous. I was not scared until the last 100 feet of every jump. The last 100 feet after I loaded my equipment and go to land, I was like terrified that I was going to break legs. Like I come in, I have so many awful landings and concussions. Like I wish that was like today where you could. I forget what one of the TV shows where they had the camera to watch. But like when I would hold my risers, I swear to God, out loud every time I go like, please don't let me break my legs. Please, like out loud, like please don't let me break my legs. Please don't let me break. And like I would literally be talking to myself and like. And I would land. I would like say out loud, like, "Oh, thank you, I didn't break my legs." Like, but I mean, it was the most like if people haven't done it, there's like everything else up until landing, I was perfectly fine because like there's so many things that people don't know about, like your weight, all these things that like someone like you can jump and they just like you watch them, they just like they could be the first person, the last person out, and they just like floating around, and you're like, meanwhile, you're the last person, you're just like a lawn dart, like it's like holy shit. So.
Yeah. And people are like, why didn't you pull your reserve? And you're like, that's how I normally fall.
Never. Yeah. No, there's like, but there's the thing is like, I always tell people, are you nervous? Are you still scared when you do it?
Listen, I get up there and I'm hyped. Okay. I'll never forget this. Master Schermerhorn, great, like NCO, amazing. But he got me into jump master school, as in like he pushed me along that journey. He was like, no, you're going to go to jump master school. Got me my 12 jumps, signed me up for the course. And I remember him saying, I remember being like, I am so terrified to jump out of this airplane. How am I going to be a good jump master? And he was like, because you're going to be focused on everything else. Like you are so focused on leading those troops out that door that you don't have time to be scared. And it's true. And so now the whole time I'm just hyped. I'm so hyped up there. I'm having a good time, getting the troops out, giving the time warnings. And then I go to hand off my static line and I look out the door every time still. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? This is my last jump. And then, like you said, you get out the door and you kind of like, you're in this whirlwind for like a second. You get out, your canopy open.
6 seconds, by the way, in the parachute. I'm worried about these jump masters. It used to be 4, but it's actually for 6 seconds, you're in the whirlwind. That's the new parachute takes 6 seconds for full deployment.
Around a second or so. Yeah, 6 seconds. And
you're counting 1,000. No.
And then your canopy opens and you're like, oh man, this is so peaceful. I love this. And then, like you said, the ground starts coming in.
Oh yeah, it comes so fast. Like
I'm
there's that if you've never done it, it's like it is the great. And then when even if you have a bad landing, you look up and like it's the middle of the night and you like just look. Like last night would have been a perfect night with the blue moon, right? Like if you would have been at a jump and like you just see like the next aircraft coming and like 100 people going off and you're just like,
it is a
fuck yeah. Like I mean, this is a feeling of like you're like, we are fucking badass.
Yeah,
like,
really, yeah.
Jesus, I hope no one lost this or lost that. Yeah. It turns into a whole different thing. So jump master school, favorite part of jump master school?
Oh my God. Probably, okay, well, I will tell you this. I passed on pre-test. So probably hearing that, like, you got to go, jump master. Pre-test, I was like, okay. Circles. I mean, what is there to like about jump master school? It's hard.
Yeah, it's a school that it's interesting. It's like you have to have 12 jump minimum to go.
12 jump minimum to go.
NCO or officers. I think I told you the story is like I went at 12 jumps like you did because I wanted to get in command. So at Bragg, as soon as you graduate from jump master school, it moves you up in the OML. I remember sitting down next to E7 and we just finished the nomenclature. And with your when I was looking up what's the I'm going to harass you a little bit in a second. I did before, but I was like, you have to know nomenclature. And what we're talking about is like, it's a point of like, to explain to somebody like a rubber band is not a rubber band.
Right. No. Right? But there's like,
there's all these terminologies, but you have to like, they literally in this nomenclature thing, hold up this like thing and they point at it. You have to like, and it has it's like, it should be metal clip. Is what you should be, but it's like back strap, like all kind, like the weirdest things. But you have to know that, and then that and you have to rig your equipment, and then that is like just to get you in. And like at that point, you're like, then you start the course, and like I remember sitting next to this guy, and he's an E7, and I'm like looking at him, and I'm like, hey, Soren, like, it's your first time at Jump Master School? I was like, no, it's not my first time here. He's like, it's my third time. So I was like, how many jumps you got, Soren? He's like, I got like 87 jumps. I was like, fuck. He's like, how many jumps you got, sir? He's like 12. He's like, you're fucking not gonna make it. No. And he literally said that to me. I was like, motherfucker.
No,
like,
and
salty. There it is a school that like
it's tough.
It is like one of those things of like nobody's yelling at you, but there's just a ton of stuff to learn.
Well, and there's like, okay, back to the rubber bands. There's like 7 different rubber bands you got to know, but they're all.
But it was like the question of like just learning. Like the crazy thing is like it was the first time I think of like where true muscle memory. Yeah. Like it's all they teach you is like something to do in muscle memory, and like you just once you trust it. It was the first time I trust the system. Like when you talk about the circle, like if you have never done it before, like there's people in with parachute harnesses, and you just start inspecting them, and like you're supposed to have a certain amount of time, and then they're like stop, and you're like you literally got like 10 steps into 80, and you're like and they're like next jumper, and like so you do that for an hour, and you're like I'm retarded, I'm never gonna make that. Then you're in the harness, and like and it's crazy how it ends up happening, and it's
and you got to those memorize pre-jump. That's 5 pages of like size 12.
13 minutes. I think it takes to memorize that. So that was the question. You just walked into what? Do you have your second point of performance memorized?
Check. Okay. Yes.
I have the new standard. Let's see if you.
Is it the new one?
The new one.
Okay.
So I will give you a hint. We would start at the end of your not 1,000. It's 6,000 count. Give me the next 3 sentences.
Well, can you start me off? Like, can you like
at the end of your 6,000 count, immediately go into your second point of performance, which is check canopy and gain canopy control.
And immediately
reach up.
Immediately compare your reader to sound with your fellow jumpers. Reach up and grab a set of risers in each hand. Oh, you know where I was about to go? Thumbs down, knuckles to the rear.
That's the
not
old,
yet.
See, that's the old.
Not yet. That's to get out of.
I'm just giving you a hard time. Like, but what they don't realize is this is like an airborne school at Bragg. You have to recite this. It's 13 minutes
verbatim. Like there's
right.
no error.
I think you can miss a certain amount of, but you have to like literally do that. And then at Bragg at the time, well, I asked you before, and you said before, you're not allowed to do that. But at Bragg, at the time, you had to, if you were a jump master and you had a book in front of you, were not allowed to look at it. You had to recite it, and it was fun. And I looked at it today, and I was like,
no,
I forgot half of this shit.
Oh, you'd remember it. I know.
No, but it was like, but the thing when you sit down and do it, you're like, I can't believe I remembered. I can't even remember lyrics to songs, but you were so focused on like keep it sharp, look at all times, and constantly compare your rate of descent. Remember the 3 rules of the air.
Repeat them after me.
Always look before you slip.
Yeah.
Always slip in the opposite direction of the jumper. Is that below you?
Listen, we're not.
And the lower jumper always has right away. Yes. I didn't look at that one, so that's a good one. So.
Okay, what are your 5 points of contact? You remember these?
Gosh. I know the push-up muscle.
Yeah, the pull-up muscle.
Pull-up muscle.
And then the buttocks. Yeah.
Thigh.
Then,
calf.
Yeah, I think that's
missing one. Not your elbow, because I used to throw the elbow down.
I get the knees all the time. For some reason, I'm like straight.
It is a great thing, but it's great. It's just funny to be like me. Like it's fun to have somebody else that don't. And I'm glad you were at Bragg, not someone else. Some crappy
Fort Benning or. What is it?
Benning, I give Benning next.
Doesn't matter.
All the SF guys that are jump masters, I'm kind of like.
They don't count either.
No, I remember going on a jump at I think about St. Mary Glace at Bragg, and my buddy was a special force officer, and I was on the jump, and we JMPI'd over. So I'm showing up 82nd jump master. I got my armband, like the red armband, like now you have patches. You're the only person that has it. We're camoed up, and they're like, "What are you guys doing?" And like. We're JMPI jumpers, and then like the other jump master comes up to me, and he doesn't even have a helmet on.
No, and he probably
he doesn't have his ballistic helmet on, and I'm like, and he looks at me. He's like E7, and it's like, and I'm like, are you gonna JMPI me? He's like,
looks good.
You're good. I'm like, and we like when he was talking, I'm like, just like pretend JMPI. I mean, he like did this like the crazy thing. I was like, oh man, I'm like, are you gonna put your ballistic helmet on? He's like, no, I'm not. You can start. You can start after the ballistic helmet. So I was like, that's not how we do things. He's like. Well, that's how we do. But it's a crazy.
It's totally.
We give
different.
it another time. It's totally all the same
different.
thing. It's
yeah. That's why, like, I will take a new grad jump master over like
I don't know though.
CW3 any day.
No.
No, because the CW3s, they do the once over and they're like,
They've
you're
seen,
good.
but they've seen. No, I think it depends on where you're at. Like, so at Bragg, I don't think there's ever nobody was ever not JMPIing. I'm making a joke about some stuff. It's like there's different things. Like, it's also again when you're talking about a special forces team where all these guys are all jump masters anyway. So it's like they're So it's a kind of a like the second, third check. I get
Absolutely,
that, but like and like when you have 800 paratroopers and jump masters, if you've never been down there and they're working, it's crazy to watch. Everybody's doing it, but I don't know. I thought every rank. I always appreciated the older guys because they've been there and done that and seen it, and like you're kind of like you walk in there and like look at me and they're kind of like, I've done this 30 times. Like it's your first time. Like the first time you do an AJ, like which we gotta wrap this up because this is going long. But the AJ is like doesn't exit the aircraft that people don't know. So you just
the AJ exits, the PJ doesn't.
No, I mean I'm talking about safety. I'm sorry about that. First time you do safety. I'm sorry. So the safety is like you have a parachute, like a free fall parachute on. You're just get everybody out of the aircraft. And the first time you do it, that was my favorite thing ever as a jump master because you finally get to see everybody's eyes as they leave, and everybody's scared. Everyone's eyes are like the craziest faces. I wish that's when you had GoPros and all the kind of stuff, but it's a fun. I think that it's a community that we take it pretty. It's a pretty serious thing, and it's one of the quotes that I didn't say. We jumped so fast into giving you a hard time that I didn't even read the one quote, which was the sky, even more than the sea, is terribly unforgiving for even the slightest mistake. So I think it's an unknown thing, but that's I have that on a jump master plaque that I have, and kind of tells like no matter what school you've been to, we take it pretty seriously. There's people that can get hurt very quickly and die if you don't do what we're doing, and it's crazy. So we didn't get to talk about what you do in your professional life. We can talk about that after. I mean, but I
mentioned it.
We're going on one of the longest episodes.
I know. We gotta wrap it up. I mean,
Jason's Jason's not here. He'd be giving us a hard time. He's probably falling asleep in his camper right now. But thank you for coming on. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service as a military spouse.
Thank you.
And in all seriousness, like your smile. No, I'd stop. I think and I think people that are spouses that are out there that are listening, like we're joking around. It wasn't a failure. It happened. It doesn't. I think that's we couldn't do what we couldn't do what we did. I couldn't have done what I did without having someone that was back there taking care of them. I think if you, a lot of us it isn't, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And I can tell you honestly, I would never be able to do that. I would never be able to put aside my own wants and feelings and desires to follow somebody around. So anybody that's done that, you're the reason why we were able to do that. And don't consider yourself a failure. It was a stage of your life, and
appreciate that.
And hopefully it doesn't hold you back to be, the brigadier general. You're talking about being a general earlier. So you threw a general down there pretty quick, which is great. So unfortunately, we're going to get to the dark part of Pours with Patriots tonight. We're going to honor another paratrooper, a fellow paratrooper like us, a gentleman from the 82nd Airborne Division. Tonight, we're going to honor U.S. Army Sergeant Jason C. Wines, 24. Jason took his life on April 23rd, 2017 in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Jason was born on February 9th, 1993 in Fresno, California, and was the youngest of 3 children. Jason graduated from Clovis High School in 2011, where he was active in sports, playing soccer, football, and running hurdles. Jason also loved playing World of Warcraft and training in Taekwondo, where he achieved the rank of black belt. After graduation, Jason enlisted in the United States Army as a combat medic. Jason deployed twice to Kuwait and Iraq while assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. While in the Army, Jason had many friends and good times. There were trips to Las Vegas, football games in Chicago, Illinois, skydiving, Roman candle wars on the 4th of July, and many other adventures. During his visits home, Jason enjoyed spending time with his family, catching up with his close friends, and visiting his sister in Eureka, California, hiking and camping. Jason is survived by his parents, siblings, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, and great-grandmother, Cindy Wines, Alex Jones, Katie Wines, Bob Wines, Kathy Wines, Vicky Hatch, Robbie Wines, and Hilda Rickert. And again, if you're out there listening or you know someone that is struggling, you definitely need to call the crisis hotline at 988, or you can dial 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255, or now they actually have a chat where you can chat online at veteranscrisishotline.net/chat. So again, I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I told you we'd go quick.
Yeah, it really did. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. What you guys are doing is great, and
I appreciate
know,
that.
more support needs to be in this community. I mean, we have a lot of great resources, but the more the better, because it needs to not be a thing, you know.
Yeah, and we met at a
So-
local, event for
Yeah, we did.
for suicide. So that's it's near and dear to your heart. I mean, you've been playing there for a couple of years, you said. So thank you for coming on, and
Well, thank you
and
for
thank
going
you for
and
your
supporting
service.
us, guys. Thank you for your service. Yeah.
And so we're gonna end it with a quote. We didn't get to talk about. Well, I was gonna end it with your profession
Okay.
that we didn't get to talk about, which being a speech pathologist.
Yeah.
But we'll end it with an airborne. We got to end it with an airborne quote from the Airborne Creed.
Always.
So I volunteered as a parachutist, fully realizing the hazard of my chosen service, and by my thoughts and actions will always uphold the prestige, honor, and high esprit de corps of the parachute troops. I realize that a parachutist is not merely a soldier who rides by parachute to fight, but is an elite shock trooper, and that his country expects him to march further and faster, to fight harder, and to be more self-reliant than any other soldier. Parachutists are an allied army. Parachutists of all allied armies belong to this great brotherhood. And that's from the Airborne Creed. And I didn't notice they haven't changed. It says he,
Got me
but it
good.
should be him or her. It's the same thing. There's many great male and female paratroopers. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for
so much.
for filling in for
Yeah.
episode 39.
Oh,
It was kind of a fun to
I'm
appreciate
glad I
that.
got to come earlier than later. Yeah. This was good.
Excellent. You're always welcome. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you in a couple more weeks. And again, good luck.
Thank you.
Command goes by fast, so enjoy it while you can.
Let's go.